this monkey for no Frankenstein?
I know I go from rags to riches.
Why, a 4-year-old child could understand this report. Run out and find me a 4-year-old child. I can't make head or tail out of it. Faravelli, you've got the brain of a 4-year-old boy, and I bet he was glad to get rid of it.
My fate is up to you.
Now, I'd be shitting my pants if I was you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Your List Sucks, episode 101. We're continuing the top 100 countdown. Today, we're doing movies numbers 70s through 61. By now, you've probably gotten to know our panel a little bit, but I'll introduce them anyway. Let's start with last week's winner. Cody, make sure you're unmuted before I start talking.
I am unmuted.
All right. Yeah, Cody, you've won 2 of 3 now. You were the odds-on favorite. I think everybody said to win this from the beginning, but, a lot could happen in the next 70 movies. How do you think you're going to do from here?
Well, I thought after, was it last night's movie games? I thought we fired you. I thought the notice went through. Apparently, HR fumbled the ball at some point. But I guess we'll talk to them later. I think I'm going to win because I like film. Or love film, some would say. You tolerate film. And the rest, I don't know what the fuck they like. I don't think they like them. I think that if it's basic and has a plot and 2 characters and has an end goal, 2 of these people are like, no. I want fireworks and a penis and all that stuff. So, and different animation style, because that's got to be important, There's people that want to appeal to film critics, and then there's me, and I just want to talk about the films I like. So I think I'll win again tonight, because I have movies that I don't think you'll hate.
Okay, speaking of fireworks and penis, right below Cody, we've got Ethan Beller.
Hello, sir.
How you doing today, Ethan?
I'm good. Yeah, I mean, Cody's right. This is the week where I'm starting to get a little, well, mine aren't that weird this week, but they are maybe movies that most people wouldn't consider top 100 material, but that's why I'm most excited to dig into these ones. I don't know about my chances going forward. I feel like we might have sailed past that. I got my 1 win, and that's all I needed, and it was the week I thought I would do it, so we'll see. It's going to be more fun for me, though, so I'm excited.
All right. Right next to me, opposite Cody, we got Zach Ford. Zach, you've been plugging along. We've been learning more about you every week. You've had a very interesting list. I keep telling you you're doing well. You don't believe it, but I mean, you've been closer than you thought every week with your picks. You haven't completely turned me off yet. I'm not angry at you yet. So you're doing well.
Yeah.
How do you think it's going to go this week?
It's going to go downhill now. I think I reached my peak last week. I think second place is the best I've ever done this show, and now it's all downhill from here. Just like my life, past my peak, all downhill from here. I just want to say, Cody saying that we only appeal to critics. I don't know critics. I just appeal. My taste appeal to people with fine tastes, not for people whose idea of what a great movie is similar to them thinking that the best taco is Taco Bell. I just want the finer things in life.
All right. Getting started early tonight.
I'm going to switch your Oscar movie to Joker in a heartbeat. Just wait, buddy.
Down below Zach, we got last but not least, Brian Michaels. Brian, I said the week we haven't killed each other yet. Is that going to change this week?
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to say, if Cody thinks that anything I pick is to appeal to critics, he doesn't know me at all. And he's not going to like my list this week because at least 2 of them have visible penises in them. So there's that. As far as me and you, Kirk, you talk about the winner of the show. I think the winner of the show is whoever gets to piss you off the most with their list. And so in that respect, I can win every week.
That's true when Cody's hosting, but not me. All right. So if you watched movie games last night, you got a little bit of a sneak preview of what we're in for tonight. But let's get started with our bottom 3 for the evening, and we'll start as we always do with Cody with your 70 through 68.
So my number 70 is Double Indemnity, not the team, the actual Billy Wilder movie. My number 69 is Moneyball. And my 68 is Hell or High Water. Cool.
All right.
So Double Indemnity is one of my favorite Billy Wilder. It's not my favorite Billy Wilder, but something that Billy Wilder does really well is talk about insurance. Something with him and insurance is like his big like. I would really like to just pick his brain to find out what he had against insurance companies and stuff, because he did it in almost every film. But this one is actually a really good movie, not a really good team name for Warzone. But basically, the clause in a thing that if it's an accident, you get double the money. Two people try to get that. I think the overall cast is super strong in this movie. Fred McMurray is just fantastic in this film. He's one of my favorite classic actors. The more he keeps popping up and stuff, I enjoy. And I always think like Billy Wilder's like script and directing in movies just makes it an interesting watch. Definitely one that's talked about, but not as high as the other ones in his filmography. My 69 is Moneyball. Moneyball is, I'm a huge baseball fan. Baseball is my favorite sport. It's not even close compared to sports, but this is the story of the Oakland Athletics, the 20-game wins, the piece of shit team that they were able to make to the postseason by finding analytics for the first time. I just think it's a really well done story that most people don't know. Why it's lower, and it always will be low for me. I still love the movie a lot, but they hide a very key piece from this team that drives me absolutely crazy. That they had 3 Cy Young pitchers as their aces, and no one talks about their pitching staff whatsoever. But overall, great story. Just all the baseball like intricatity, like the stuff that they talk about, like, oh, he's got an ugly girlfriend. Well, that does not matter if he can swing a bat. So Moneyball is always going to be up there for me. And then my 68 was my favorite movie from this year, and it still remains, is Hell or High Water. I think I've talked about this movie to death on the show, especially recently. It's been brought up a lot, but I don't think that Chris Pine has been better than he has been in this movie. I think he's absolutely great. Him playing off Ben Foster. I think Jeff Bridges, I think that entire like dynamic and the concept of the movie really works. And again, I've said it before, I'll say it again, that waitress in that scene about the T-bone steak is one of my favorite movie moments. She's just true Texan. So yeah, those are my three.
All right. Double Indemnity, very solid pick. Probably top 3 Wilder for me. What I love about this movie is, when I first saw it, kind of had a general idea what it was about, so I kind of constructed what I thought the story would be in my head. And I'm like, it's going to be where he meets this girl, he's going to get drawn in, and there's going to be a lot of intrigue and deception. It's going to be a slow burn. He's going to slowly make a decision. It's like, no. He meets this woman, and he is immediately ready to do murder to have her. And that just kind of blew my mind. That's what I love about Wilder, is that he's making these movies in the 40s that, like, you have no idea how he got away with it, because there's just such modern themes and ideas. And yeah, the cast is great. Fred McMurray is he plays like a really good, like, skeevy, like morally ambiguous guy. And who plays his boss? It's Edgar G. Robinson, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, and he's really good, just as like just kind of the cat and mouse game between the two of them, and like McMurray barely stayed one step ahead, and just him completely sweating it out. And it's just a really, really
how they don't let things go, and it just keeps building. It works super well for the 40s, especially.
And it just keeps building, gets more and more intense. Yeah, so it's a really great movie, and a really great payoff at the end too. So it's not my top 100, but it's definitely a top 100 worthy movie. 69 Moneyball. This is what I was going to rewatch this week, not even because it was on your list, because I was in the mood to watch it. I saw some clips for some reason. Somebody was showing clips for Moneyball, and I got really excited about it. I'm like you. I love baseball, and I just love, like, not just the sport, but I love the culture of baseball. I think it's just so different from any other sport, and I kind of love both ways about it. Like, I love the old school, like, it's charming, like the ugly girlfriend thing. Like, that's just, like, charming to me. I love that about, because, like, nobody in football will talk about, he has an ugly girlfriend, so he can't catch touchdowns. But baseball, like, people think that way, and like there's a school of thought that that's going to affect things. But I also like when Pitt comes in, is kind of like, no, like, this is it. Just get on base. I don't care about anything else. Just get on base. We can do this with a cheap team. You're right. They do kind of like fudge what really happened, and I think they make it more of this grand achievement of what they did than what it was, because like it was like lightning in a bottle. It never really happened again. And Philip Seymour Hoffman, I'm surprised you didn't mention him, is really good as the coach, is Art Howe, who also kind of gets a raw deal in this movie.
He looks nothing like him too, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
But I also he wanting to start that first baseman, and he ends up trading him, and he's just like, I'm starting him. No, you're not. He's in Cleveland. It's just
the power stroke between them is really good. But like I said, I feel bad for the real Art Howe when I watch it, but Hoffman's great in that role. So yeah, another solid pick. And of course, Hell or High Water. I talked about this death too. This is my top 100. My favorite movie that year. Would have been my Oscar winner for the year. Every time I watch it, I love it more and more. It's just such a great modern Western. Anything I say, I'm going to repeat myself because I've said so much about this. Pine's great. Ben Foster's great. Just the dynamic between all the characters. I love this movie so much. Definitely worth a spot on top 100. Even I think I had it somewhere like in the 50s or 60s. So I think you're spot on with this one.
Doing good tonight.
But we're gonna very good start for you. Ethan, we're gonna move over to you for your 70 through 68. Oh, take a drink.
I was muted, and my number 70 is District 9. My number 69 is Y Tu Mama Tambien. And my number 68 is a movie called Strawberry Mansion. All right, so my number 70, District 9. This movie, in my opinion, is a masterpiece. It is a movie that was so good that Neil Blomkamp could make as many bad movies as he wants to, and I will still be excited for the next movie he makes because of how good District 9 was. It's just such a refreshing sci-fi movie. It's got everything you want in a clever, well-made movie. It's got like, it's got the action that you want in a sci-fi movie. It's got great special effects. It's got, there's a lot of heart to it. It's sad, but it also does what all great sci-fi movies does, and it has a good message that's not like, it doesn't, I mean, in a way, this movie hits you over the head with the message, but in a way that makes sense because the subject matter is so almost one-to-one with real life, with refugees and all that stuff in South America with these aliens that come in. And the first, I don't remember exactly, but it's like the first, almost third of the movie maybe is like a mockumentary style where you're just learning about the world in which, these aliens have come to Earth above South Africa, and the very realistic real-world implications of that. And the racism that would come along with that. It's so crazy how real life it feels, even with these aliens that are called prawns, which, by the way, the effects for a movie that came out in 2009, they hold up incredibly well. I love this movie. It changes like halfway through in another way that I was told I spoil a little bit too much on the show, so I won't do it. But this movie has so many pieces of it that are just incredible. My number 69, Y Tu Mama Tambien, Alfonso Cuarón's best movie, in my opinion, so far. This movie is beautiful. It is a road trip through Mexico with these two best friends and this one woman who they're both, romantically involved with, or want to be at least. And it's got the best examples of everything Alfonso Cuarón does really well. It's these long sweeping takes, these shots that aren't broken, the acting, you just get to sit with these people having these real conversations, but it's still, there's a little bit of stylization and it's just shot so gorgeously. You just want to hang out with them and experience this stuff, but they're also kind of assholes and but you still kind of like them because they're charming and endearing. And it just explores a lot of themes of masculinity and sexuality. This is an incredibly sexy movie. I don't usually go for movies that are just sexy. This movie's sexy. All right. So if you guys want a sexy movie in Spanish, it's fantastic. I can't recommend this one enough. I love the ending is one of my favorites. The way this movie plays with voiceover and all that, it's such a good movie. My number 68 is a movie that I don't think anyone or most people in these communities have probably not seen yet. Strawberry Mansion. This is not. I see Kirk shaking his head. I understand, but it did premiere at Sundance this year, and I felt it would be unfair to the movie for me to not include it in my list just because it's not widely available yet. Because I saw it and it instantly had such a deep, profound effect on me that I was like, this is in my top 100 easily. It is a movie it's in the near future, and this guy, our main character, is a dream auditor because in the future the government taxes our dreams. So that's just kind of like the backdrop. He goes into this old woman's dreams, and he's going there to tax her because she's got years and years of dreams that haven't been taxed yet. And he ends up developing this really nice relationship with her, and then some sinister things happen, and it's a comedy, it's a romance, it's a sci-fi, it's action, like adventure, all of that on like a very low budget that they wring every penny out of in the best way possible. It's kind of like, it feels like everything was DIY, like all the special effects, all the practical stuff. You could feel the love in every single costume or, prop or set design, all of it. It's just so lovingly put together. And it's about dreams. And as someone I have weird sleep schedule, weird dreams. This movie, more than any other movie ever for me, captured what it's like to have dreams and have weird dreams, and how vivid they can be and exciting and imaginative. So I think this movie is one that everyone should check out. It's playing now, I think, virtually there's one of the film festivals, I don't remember, but if you look it up, you might be able to catch it. I think it's like $12 per ticket, but if not, wait, it'll probably come out this year. It's awesome.
All right. Okay, so number 70, District 9. This is a movie I really like. I've talked about it, I think, before, about some other movies that have come up. I really like mundane sci-fi where, there's aliens or there's whatever, and there's no ray guns or explosions. It's just another people, and how do we deal with that, and how does it affect, society and culture? And this movie does that so great, like you said, Ethan. I love those opening scenes, like the world building of they came, and then like 10 years later, and it's like this big hopeful thing, like, oh my god, and then 10 years later, just like they're basically living in slums, and they're a burden on everybody. Nobody likes them. Yeah, and I just love that like found footage style of how it's shot, the way the story's told, the way the characters are introduced. Like you said, the effects, the aliens look amazing. This is some of the best character or like alien design, probably of like the 21st century. Like it just looks so like real and grounded. Everything in this movie is really grounded. What I like about it. And Sharlto Copley's great in it. He brings humor to it. And he's funny, but it's also very dramatic and serious. And you're just watching his character arc of where he starts to where he ends up with these creatures in this world. Yeah, this is a great movie. This is a couple more rewatches. This is something that could potentially make my top 100. Every time I've made a top 100 list, so it took a couple of years. This has been on like the short list, just never made the cut. If I watched a couple more times, I could definitely see it working its way up. Y Tu Mamá También is a movie that call it Crone's best movie is nuts. That's a crazy statement right there. It's good. It has a lot of good things to offer. It is a great looking movie. I can't really connect to the two main characters just because they are kind of assholes, like you said. Like they're not very likable, and I don't know if they're even necessarily supposed to be. I think they're just like a realistic expression of people at that age, and so yeah, a lot of times people like that aren't likable. So yeah, so I can't. What's the name of the woman who plays the main woman? And I can't remember the actress's name.
Maribel Verdú.
Yeah.
She's really good. I really like her. And
She's so good.
Really connect to her character. But the other two, like, I'm just not on board with. But like you said, it is a great looking movie, and it's the story is well told. I just don't like them. Strawberry Mansion. I haven't been to Sundance, so I haven't seen it yet. You're over here, proving everything Cody had to say about at the top of the show, right?
It was virtual this year.
But yeah, so you sold it well. I'd read a little bit about it and I wanted to see it, but your explanation or your description of it really sounds interesting to me. So as soon as it becomes available to all of us peons, I'll definitely give it a watch.
This is wireless bullshit right now. This is some BS.
And with that, we move over to Brian for your 70.
My 70 hasn't come out yet. It's Avatar 2. No. My 70 is a little film called Deadpool. My 69 is Bad Boys, one of Kirk's favorites. And my 68 is South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut.
Oh, fuck.
Hey, you don't get to talk. Shut up, Cody. Put yourself back on mute and leave it there. There you go.
Really good strategic placement here, Brian. Thank you.
Yeah.
You like that? You like that? Don't think some thought didn't go into some of these. All right. Yeah, my list this week is going to be kind of comedy heavy. There's only a couple that aren't really comedies. Deadpool, I mean, everybody knows Deadpool. It's been talked about on this show before and all the different superhero ones they have. But I mean, Deadpool is kind of a case where it's the perfect marriage, I think, of an actor and a character. I mean, I don't know anybody else who could have played this role the way Ryan Reynolds did, and it's made it work so perfectly because it just so fits his personality and what he brought to it made him like, he is Deadpool. I also think it came along at a good time because until then, we had R-rated comic book films, the 300 and Kick-Ass and things like that. But as far as like a major label like Marvel, DC wasn't doing this kind of R-rated thing. So this one got to come, kind of kick down the door, kind of got to have its cake and eat it too, because it gets to be R-rated and hardcore in that. But because it's kind of meta, it's not really in the universe with the rest of the films, so it gets to enjoy that. It also gives the best Colossus we've seen on screen because the X-Men proper franchise has never been able to do him properly. Yeah, but this is just a film that is a ton of fun. It's one that people wanted for a long time after that leaked test footage came out, and they finally got it. And it was, I mean, the plot is kind of okay. I will admit the villains are a little weak, but who cares? It was Deadpool and it was fun. Bad Boys, the 1995 one. That is not the Sean Penn one. This was Michael Bay before he went to Michael Bay. This was his first directing film, and I mean, the man directs action well, at least back then. It was before he got too frenetic with the cut, kind of Transformers editing style that he's known for now. Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, I thought, had perfect chemistry. I think they kind of are exactly what a buddy cop action comedy is supposed to be. I mean, like with Lethal Weapon and some of these other ones and Bad Boys, I thought they were great. They played off each other and they were convincing. The action in the movie was very convincing and the comedy worked very well. I really enjoyed both of them in it. Mark Mancina, I love the Mark Mancina score for this. I've talked about him before. He did this in Twister and Speed, and he went on to do Tarzan and Moana. He's one of my favorite composers. I love his score to this too. But so yeah, Bad Boys at 69. And South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. South Park, I think people forget at the time how unique it was, because I mean now there's adult animation everywhere. It's been imitated to death in hundreds of cartoons, some of which work and some don't. But back then it was kind of a unique thing. And especially when they were able to do a film and were able to go R-rated, this kind of like with Deadpool, it was something you didn't really get to see much, if ever, and it was hilarious. I love the comedy in it. I was laughing my ass off in the theater so hard I was crying. And even just as a musical, I think this gets underrated just as a musical, because Mark Shaman's songs and the way he weaves them in, and especially in the finale when they have kind of all the songs weaving together, it's just very well done as a musical. I think the songs are excellent in it. So yeah, that's my 70 to 68.
All right.
Have fun, Kirk.
Okay, Deadpool. A lot of what you said is true. Ryan Reynolds is fantastic in this role. It's one of those, maybe it's trying to think of even another example that's as close to this, but just one of those casting where it's like, yeah, he is that character. No one else could have done this character the way they did. And I remember first time watch it, it starts with that you get that opening credit scroll, and you're like, oh wow, okay, they're doing this, and that perfectly sets up the movie, the tone of the movie, and what's going to happen. And so much of what we've seen was just such a surprise, especially for a comic book movie, R-rated, everything like you said. And I really enjoyed it. On rewatch, though, once I knew what was coming, it was just a lot of like weird, dated '90s references, like Limp Bizkit and Rosie O'Donnell. Like, what is this? And it's like, okay, we get it, Hugh Jackman. You don't have to reference Hugh Jackman 80 times in the movie. So on rewatch, it kind of started to fall more flat for me. I kind of like seeing like the cracks in the comedy. That said, it's still a good movie. I don't hate it. I just don't like it as much as I did the first time I saw it. I think this movie is made not necessarily the shock, but just to be experienced that first time and all that new stuff that it brings to you. Once you go back to it, you don't get that as much. In my opinion. Bad Boys. This movie is rough. This is a bad movie. I don't know what you're talking about before. This is Michael Bay before. This is the most Michael Bay movie ever. Maybe not so much like in camera work and editing, but as far as like character or lack thereof, this is completely. This is Michael Bay going full Michael Bay. Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, I mean, I guess their chemistry together is that they just constantly scream at each other. Like, no matter what happens, whether they do something wrong, somebody else does something wrong, they just scream at each other. Because that's like I think that's the only like level of relationship between men that Michael Bay understands, is you have to scream at each other. Like, there can't be anything like real or like, you know, moments of like vulnerability. It's like you always have to be angry and screaming, because that's just what men do, because Michael Bay just doesn't understand human beings. And it's just a lot. This movie, just when I watch this movie, I have a headache the entire time I'm watching it, because they're screaming, everybody else is screaming, everything's blowing up. It's just such a headache, and it's not fun. It's just I can deal with like loud, crazy action if it's fun. This movie is just loud and boring, and I don't like the action. I don't like the characters. This movie is just bad on all fronts. South Park. I'm not a South Park fan, because with South Park, Joseph, I don't even want to hear that. Like, people complain about Goodfellas, and they like because like the characters scream in context, but a movie like Bad Boys would just constantly scream. I don't want to hear that complaint at all. South Park, I'm not a South Park fan. When something is created and made just to offend people, like that's your main goal, like I tap out immediately, because to me that's like the offending people is the easiest thing in the world to do. And especially if you tailor make what you're making to offend the most easily offended people. So like, I don't have interest in that. And I feel like this movie takes what the show does, and just like, it's like, oh, we can say the F word now, so we're gonna do that a million times because that'll piss people off. And we're gonna have Satan and Adolf and Saddam Hussein because that's gonna piss people off. And I feel like it was just like, how can we piss off the audience? How can we piss off the MPAA? And that was just the that to me, that's like all it's trying to do. It's just like it's like a 15-year-old, just poking at his parents, like saying things just to piss off his parents. And it just didn't land with me. I just really don't like this movie. I think the show has moments of like cleverness and creativity, but the movie to me was just like, oh, let's do all the stuff we can do to, like I said, piss people off. So yeah, that's another one I'm not a big fan of. So not a great start, Brian. Let's go over to Zach, number 70.
So, tragedy has struck. The greatest of tragedy to our communities, which is letterboxes down, which is what I use to keep track of my list. So I won't need your help, Koho, but I think I got these three down at least. So my number 70 is Beasts of Southern Wild. My 69 is Boyhood. Okay, good. My 68 is Kill Bill Volume 1.
Yikes.
Yeah. I mean, okay. Beasts of Southern Wild. This is a Zach movie if you've ever seen one. I've talked about a couple of things I love, specifically kids movies that deal with magical realism, but also kids movies that deal with the melancholy and sadness of what it means to be a child, which I think just adds a truth to the adventure of childhood that sometimes kids movies are afraid to have. And these adult dramas that deal with it, I find much more wisdom and reality in what at least my experiences were, like how I like to honestly reflect on it. Because Beasts of Southern Wild deals with Hush Puppy, who's played awesomely by Kavitchane Wallace when she was like 6 years old, in a way that lacks any pretension, but it's just like a true kid. But her kind of journeying to find her mom through let's call it the bathtub in Louisiana, which is like a very poor area in the bayou in Louisiana, but it's filled with like a giant beast somehow, and it has like a very Peter Pan-esque kind of journey through where it's like seems like there's only kids to kind of looking for adulthood, which makes sense because Ben Zeitlin, director, went on to do Wendy. But I found it very beautiful and poetic in the way it's filmed. The score that Dan Romer did with the director Ben Zeitlin, it has a bombastic, almost like a parade quality that just like maintains the energy through that. I think it is one of the best scores of the past decade, and it's just one of those movies that are is like no other. And for some reason, I'm the only one that seems on Ben Zeitlin's wavelength. I want to make all the movies because I also love Wendy, but it seems like he might be done because that crashed. So he makes movies for me. My 69 was Boyhood. I'm a big Richard Linklater fan. He works best when he is, experimenting with time, which is a constant theme that he kind of works with, and very literally in the mechanics of this film, has filming a movie over 12 years to really capture the growth and evolution of a child, to where I think the experiment just paid off in a way that can once again speak truth to what it means to come of age. In a way, you get to experience how this one, child's life and ideas and mind evolves, as we age. So it captures puberty, unlike a film's able to ever have. It captures going into, adolescence and early adulthood. But mostly, a very real relationship with the parents that felt true to me. The experience with Patricia Arquette as a mother, just, spoke to my experiences with my mom, especially leaving college, when she was like empty nesting. That scene that she delivers as far as, having, no one else, left and not really know the purpose of that point was, something that I think is universal to all of experiences. And I think Richard Linklater made a masterpiece of universality, of really capturing an experience that we can all go through, which sometimes people don't want to watch that. But to me, it's nice to see a movie, reflect my experiences. And I just, appreciate it as an experiment. It's amazing that he got this done, and I think it functioned. My 68 was Yikes.
Okay. All right, Beasts of Southern Wild. I watched this just recently for the show. It was good. I honestly don't have a ton to say about it. The score is great. It's there are some really good. The shots that shot of her running through the fireworks was pretty amazing. There's a lot of just cool looking shots like that. Like you said, like it has that kind of like otherworldly feel to it, and the score is great. But I think just the idea of what it does, like that idea of childhood, work, like you said, working through with imagination. I think other movies do a little. There are other movies that do a little better. But I don't have anything negative to say about this movie either. It was good. The little girl, that's the girl who plays Annie in the new Annie, right?
Yeah.
It's the same kid.
Yes.
Yeah, she was good in this, and the guy that played her dad was really good. The whole cast, like that whole cast, is just like creating that world, that like that subculture. Was really interesting. Boyhood's a funny movie. I think people give it too much flack. Like they almost like consider the gimmick to it like to its detriment, which I don't think you can judge the movie by that. People are like, oh, that's the only thing that's going for it. I think it's a good movie on its own. However, I think the opposite is also true, where people kind of give this movie like it's like, oh, it's the greatest movie of all time because look what he did. He made this movie over a period of 12 years. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But again, the movie has to stand on its own, and it's not that great if you just watch it as a movie, as a narrative. It's good. I'd say it's good. It's not great. I don't think it's a fantastic movie. Linklater really isn't my director. It just in general, I'm not a big fan of his. This is actually probably towards the top of his filmography for me. But still, I don't think it's, anything. Like I said, it's cool what he did, but I don't think in and of itself that makes the movie just this great thing. And Kill Bill, you did just Kill Bill Volume 1, right?
Yes, but it is still Yikes. Are we just going to talk about it?
No, you're fine. I just want to make sure you did just Volume 1 because you get extra points.
I did Volume 1.
Yeah, because you know how movies work, so you get extra points for that.
Okay.
We're moving on now to everybody's 67s down through 64s, where everybody gets to talk now. And we're going to start with Cody at number 67.
Two things. To the people watching, I'm not caving off because I hate all their choices. I'm caving off because I'm sick. Second, it was accepted in YLS history, so suck an egg, Kirk. All right, on the next one, my 67 is Apocalypse Now. Okay. So Apocalypse Now, I figured I would be talking about this because it's an older movie. The thing that Francis Ford Coppola was able to achieve in the 70s is what some directors wish they could do in their entire career. And the films that he's able to make, I feel like this is one of the best war films ever made. This is a loaded cast through and through. This is like a psychological, like, thriller of a war story. It's not that typical, like, here's a plot, I'll play, and we're going to go. You get into the mind of Martin Sheen basically as he goes through. I hope I'm saying that's right. I may be wrong, but yeah, Martin Sheen. But like, I think like the standout, like one of the standouts, Dennis Hopper in this movie is like, he's just so out there in this movie. It doesn't take you out because it fits in there, but like with Brando and all those characters, and I think the last like 5 minutes of this movie, the theatrical version, I know there's like 17 different cuts. I went theatrical basically on this one, but I do like the final cut. But the last like 5 minutes of this movie is really just insane on screen. There's of course the classic love the smell of napalm in the morning, but that's just like the brink of it. I think the opening of the movie and to see Sheen like go through the stuff and like the voiceover basically, I think really moves this movie along. So yeah, Apocalypse Now is my 67.
Yeah, this is a really good movie, and it gets better the more. It's one of those ones where it gets better the more you know about it, and just the fact that the documentary of how hard it was to make, and it almost killed Francis Ford Coppola, and just all that stuff, and like how Lawrence Fishburne was only like 16 or 17 years old when he was in it. He like lied to get into the cast. Yeah, the cast is great. You know, you got Duvall, you got Hopper, you got Sheen. It's probably my favorite Martin Sheen role. He's so good in this. And yeah, like you said, just like that picture of the psychological effects of war and what it does. Other movies have done it. I don't think anybody does it as well as this one. And yeah, just that trip down the river and just everything they have to go through. It's really good. Yeah, 70s Hopper, just that out of his mind. Dennis Hopper is so good. He's so much fun to watch. So yeah, good.
That line where he's just like, take an order and I'm not even in their army anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's just like, guys, let's go. So,
all right, everybody else on Apocalypse Now.
I legit don't know why it's not on my list. And I looked at my personal year-by-year rankings, and I actually have it above all that jazz on my 79, so nothing means anything anymore. But I love Apocalypse Now. This is my favorite Francis Ford Coppola, or I like to call him FFC movie. I think the surrealism of it all is what kind of gets me more excited about it. I think it has some more experimental qualities than like the Godfathers do that I think capture my attention. I also just like love a boat in a jungle. I'm all about boats and jungles. We need more of those movies, at least one a year of jungle boats that aren't starring The Rock.
Yeah, this movie is incredible. I probably could have been on my top 100 if like, I don't know. I mean, this movie is, it's a masterpiece. It's almost perfect. I love it. I guess it's just not something that like aligns with my taste enough to be like top 100 material, but I do think it's an incredible movie and I love it. And I love everything you guys were saying. Zach also hit on some of the points that like, it is a bit surrealist in a lot of ways. And like, it's just, it is, maybe it is Francis Ford Coppola's most interesting movie that he's made, or at least like his boldest, if you don't count Jack, because he made some choices there. But this one is, I liked it so much from a young age that in high school, I had to get a permission slip because I used it for a project or a presentation or something. And my teacher was like, we can't show R-rated movies, but if you get this signed by your parents, I'll let you because this movie's so good. And yeah, I think I don't know anyone who doesn't like this movie that has seen it. It's fantastic.
I like the movie. I'm kind of where Ethan is in that it's I think a very well made movie. Obviously, I respect it a lot, but I do enjoy it as well. It just doesn't quite, like you said, align with my taste as much to be in my top 100. It's just a movie that I enjoy, just not quite to that level. But yeah, it's very well made. I actually think Marlon Brando is, to me, the least interesting part of the movie because I think the rest of the movie leading up to that is so much better than that. I mean, not that he does a bad job at the end. But I just think that the build up to it is better than the actual ending.
All right. So Ethan, let's go. Or no, Cody. Sorry. What's your 66?
Hey, I just want to make sure you heard what he said about Coppola, right? You heard what Zach said?
Yeah, it's
okay. I wanted that.
Just for you, Zach. Letterbox is back up.
I want that on the record. All right, my 66 is Gone Girl. So true crime kind of stories are like my one of the things I find really interesting, and the take on this one really just sold me. I guess I kind of just didn't realize how big of a Fincher fan I was until I started like watching Fincher movies like this past year. Gone Girl blew up in where I live because it was filmed really close, and people just love to see things in their own town in the movie. So I thought it was a little overhyped at first, but this movie actually just how crazy this movie honestly is at times. Like Rosamund Pike and Ben Affleck, I think, do a great job, but the overall story of it makes it super interesting. It aligns with my taste. The twist and like when they're like investigating it, he has no flipping clue what ended up happening, and as it slowly starts to unravel, it's just I think it's a really smart way he was able to direct it. I think Fincher, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I think Fincher has an easy time making movies. I just think he does. Like even when if it's not in your taste or it's not like your kind of movie, he still does a super good job of delivering it to the plate. So Gone Girl is my 66.
All right. This is a movie I've only seen once, so I like it. I think it's pretty good. That twist, like that that twist, like one third of the way through, however far it is in the movie, where you're just like, okay, this is what's happening because you know something's happening, is really good. I do want to rewatch it. I think my biggest problem is I just don't think Affleck and Fincher are a good mix. Like I feel like I don't mind. Like I'm not like a Affleck hater. But I just don't. I feel like if you would put like, and I don't know, maybe he's too old at this point. But if you put like a Brad Pitt in that role or something, or somebody, one of those actors that Fincher works with a lot, I think you get a much different performance, more nuanced performance. But at the same time, I feel like Affleck is really good at being the type of guy that character is, just like that kind of like dummy, like that just dumb dude, bro, doesn't know what's going on, is kind of too stupid for his own good. So maybe it was a good casting. I don't know. But again, for me, it's not a top 100 movie, but it's not something I want to sit here and trash. It's solid. Everybody else on Gone Girl.
I'm a big fan of Fincher. This one's probably like my bottom half of his films for me. A big part of that probably is Ben Affleck. I don't think he's a very good actor, especially as a dramatic actor. I just do not think he's very good. He was fine in this, but I think that there were 100 other actors who could have been better for the role. I'm also not a big fan of the ending, but it is what it is. It's the story. But I mean, it's well made. I mean, it's Fincher. So it's beautifully filmed. It's this. The editing's too. It's great. The performances he gets out of people. He even got what he could out of Affleck. Pretty good. But so I enjoy it.
I think moving forward, it's going to be very important for everyone to give detailed descriptions of what the penis is doing in the movie, how is it viewed, so we can keep a very detailed track of this. I'm not going to know. I like Gone Girl quite a bit. I have some very outsider take on David Fincher that is pretty well known and will be more known on the show in the coming weeks. But I think some of his more crime ones can come off a little bit cold. I still think there's this does come off cold and chilly, but I think no one does Cold and Chilly better than Rosamund Pike does in this movie and that kind of performance. And I love the casting of Ben Affleck in this. I think it's his most interesting role because it does have some meta aspects to it. The casting doesn't work for me, which I think can be considered stunt casting, is both Tyler Perry and Neil Patrick Harris just kind of throw me out of the film a little bit, which that's more problematic. Yeah, Ben Affleck, who I think had a purpose of being in that role because it spoke a lot to kind of him as a celebrity. So I love this movie. I haven't revisited it, so it could definitely go way up on rewatch.
I really like this movie. I think this might be, it's like up there for Fincher's movies for me. It's great. Like you said, that turn that it takes is fantastic. And I feel like it's a movie that's, and there's a lot of movies like this, but like where it takes a book that's kind of, I haven't read it. I don't want to trash anyone who likes this book, but I've heard it's kind of like a trashy beach read, and it elevates it to like a really, really really well-made movie, Oscar worthy, all that. I mean, it's fantastic. I really like it.
All right, Cody, what's your 65?
So my 65 is, I'm expecting some eye rolls possibly, but it's Jingo Unchained. No, cool. I didn't expect anybody to exit. I absolutely I love this movie. I've battled with it going like how high on my list. Because there is a part of this movie that I understand takes people out. The more I watched it on the recent rewatch, I enjoyed it more, and that's the ending. It just turns into a Tarantino bloodfest, and I understand where that's at. But the overall story leading up to that point is super good. I know Leo gets a lot of talk about how great he is in this movie, but I think just Jamie Foxx in general in this movie is insane. Christoph Waltz, I've heard the thing that he just takes what he does in Inglourious Basterds and takes it over into this movie and does the exact same thing and gets the same incredible. I think there's a little enough difference in there. I love the opening where he basically is shooting. He shoots the sheriff and he's like, "I need the marshal," and the marshal comes down and he's like, "Please do not shoot me, Dad, like you just did mine." Exactly, and it's just smart play overall. Like the Klansman, where the mask scene. There's comedy throughout this, but I think it's honestly a really good Western. And I think Jamie Foxx and Christoph Waltz do a good play, and everything is so easy for them until they meet Candy. Until they meet Candy, everything turns. And I think that's kind of where you think they're just gonna be able to run roughshod, and then they meet him, and it totally changes everything. And those dog scenes, the stuff that it just makes your stomach almost turn. I think Tarantino's dialogue in this movie works really well. There was me and Koho watched this like on a laptop one time, like right before when we were hanging out in Madison, Wisconsin. So like it just has an easy rewatchability factor. I know there's some rough stuff to watch, but overall, I love this Tarantino movie. It's not my favorite Tarantino, but it's up there.
All right, I like Django. The thing that hurts it for me, and it's not the movie's fault. I love like this late Tarantino historical period piece kind of period he's at in his career. The problem is the movie that came before set the bar so high, and that's what I was expecting when I went into this. And it was probably here, which is still pretty good, but I was expected here, so I was a little let down. And I do think that a big part of it is that Christoph Waltz's performance, while good in this, is nowhere near Hans Landa. And I wanted, I wanted more out of that. But it's good. I mean, he's still great in it. Leo obviously is great in it. Like you said, like this little things like Don Johnson's good in his little cameo. The Klansman scene with Jonah Hill, like a lot of very like Tarantino moments. It does drag at the end, which is I think it hurts it for me. I don't mind the shootout. I love the shootout. I think the shootout's great. It just takes it just has like that like grindhouse like feel and like.
Did you know he cut his hand during the scene? Did you know that?
He just kept going.
Yeah, he just kept acting. It's pretty cool.
But I don't mind the shootout at all. But what comes after the shootout, because it takes you at such high, and then the movie just kind of just screeches to a halt, and just takes a long time to pick back up again. And like that whole scene, the Tarantino cameo, that's definitely the worst part of it. You probably cut like 15 minutes from the end, and it'd be a lot smoother. But overall, I mean, again, it's another one's not my top 100. I'm not exactly sure where it falls on my list of Tarantino, but it's solid. It's a good pick. Everybody else was Jingo.
This is some real exclusionary bullshit. Cody shouted out my place of living, Madison, Wisconsin, just to let me know that I was not invited to this cool laptop Django party. Some bullshit. I definitely was
tried to go to
town.
Lunch with you. And
I was invited to lunch. You're like, Zach, you have 1 hour we're allowed to hang out with you for lunch, but the rest of it, don't think about it. Anyways, Django is my least favorite Tarantino. I think I'm a bigger fan of whatchamacallit. I can't think of the fucking name, Death Proof, than most people. I think because my brother loves it so much, I think helps me. But me saying it's my least favorite doesn't say much. It's Tarantino. Like all his movies are really good, and I still like it. I just think some of the things that we know as being Tarantino staples, like the ultra violence, come off a little more gratuitous in this. It's a little more out of nowhere and not in line with I think what the rest of the film is doing. Just was naturally blended, because I think it just spent like the last 20 minutes being nothing but that. Because I mean, I have Kill Bill on my list, which is like all gratuity, but that's it works with what the film is trying to do, and I just don't think it mixed with the story as well. And so
First of all, I think we should all start calling him Kirky for the rest of the show, just because we can.
Stealing my joke. That's okay.
Jingo Unchained was almost on my list. It was it probably, it went on and off in that bottom section of my list several times, and like I said, I just had to, at some point, just call my list and lock it in. But yeah, this is one of my top, I'd say 2-3 Tarantino films. I really enjoy this one. Actually, the first time I watched it, I was a little kind of mixed on it, but the more I've watched it, the more I've really enjoyed it. I think it has a couple problems, just being the usual Tarantino stuff of needing an editor. I mean, there are whole scenes or some shots just go on forever. You're like, okay, we get it. You can cut this down. It doesn't need to be a 3-hour movie or whatever it is. And then also, I also question Tarantino's use of music a lot. Some of the songs he picks for it, but that's what it is. But I thought that other than that, I really enjoyed this movie, and like I said, it almost made my top 100.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, I'm not sure where I'd place it in all Tarantino's films, but I do really love it, and I actually like his music, the choices he makes in this movie, because it's so like anachronistic anyway, and like everything's like, it's just like it's so stylistic that the music just kind of like feeds into that for me, and it just works for me. Yeah, I mean, this movie has like all of the best things you want in like a Tarantino movie. It's got like, it's really funny. It's got a lot of great action. The shootout's incredible. Like Kirk said, it's got that grindhouse feel. The acting is all, fantastic. It is also, I mean, it is hard to watch. A lot of it is very upsetting. But that's, I mean, you kind of need that in a movie with this kind of subject matter. I do agree with Kirk that, I mean, Christoph Waltz, it was Kirky, sorry. I'm sorry. What Kirky said about Christoph Waltz was true. It's like, his magnum opus as an actor is Hans Landa. So anything after that is not going to live up, but he's still incredible in it. It's like unfair. It's like not his fault. You just cannot top that performance ever. But he does his best shot, and he's still really good in it. Even Jamie Foxx, who I'm not like a huge fan of, he's really good in the movie too. Yeah, I just think it's a really good movie, and definitely I think up there for Tarantino.
All right, Cody, what you got for 64?
Well, let's not go very far. We're going to stay in the same person, same camp. It's probably going to get yikes. It's Inglourious Bastards.
Yikes.
Okay.
Yikes.
Well, you were too late.
No,
it doesn't count as your yikes. It counts as Ethan's yikes.
Nice.
Good call. I see what you did there. That was a smart move, Cody. All right, Ethan, we're going to come back to you. We're going to move up to your 67.
All right. My 67 is The Royal Tenenbaums.
Yikes.
All right. My 66 is 1988's The Blob. Yes. Okay. This movie it's perfect. It is the perfect horror movie. It's another great example of a movie where the remake is better than the original. I do like the original 50s Steve McQueen Blob movie. It's fun. But this movie is like, it's one of the best horror movies ever made. And, it's one of those movies you might not think of that as it being such a high quality movie. But everything about it, the actors, the characters, the way that the screenplay is set, it's got like Back to the Future level setup and payoff with every little bit of it. The practical effects are probably, I mean, they're some of my favorite ever in a movie, and everyone who knows my taste at this point knows that I am a sucker for good horror practical effects. The Blob is so fun to watch in every set piece they put it in, and it evolves throughout the movie, so you get to see different crazy deaths and crazy, body horror and all this fun stuff with the Blob. It's hard to, I'm not going to spoil anything, but this movie takes risks with its story, and you care about all the characters, which is rare for a horror movie because when people are dying, you don't want them to, and you don't know who's going to die. So it really keeps you on your toes. It's got good humor. I mean, it almost holds up. The effects are all almost perfect, except for like one or two moments of like some green screen stuff that you can still tell. But other than that, it's like it's almost flawless. This movie it's a perfect horror movie.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. It's definitely an improvement over the original. The original is just like you get maybe like 5 minutes of blob effects, and I mean they're cute, they're fun, they're charming in the original. But this one it adds a lot more story to it. It adds a lot more just a lot more characterization. And you're right, like it's such a tight script. Frank Darabont does a great job writing the script, and I use the exact term I was going to use, set up, payoff. There's so much going on there. I love that opening scene where they make it look like the town's abandoned. They pan over and everybody's at the football game. It's just such a cool little thing to do, to set up like the what this small town is. And it almost kind of reminds me of it's kind of like a Tremors. It's got a Tremors vibe to it, like just like a small town, people trying to survive, and not understanding what they're up against. And the effects are great. All those practical effects. The phone booth. I love the phone booth. Dude getting pulled down the drain. Just so many great like kills, like Blob kills in this, and it really makes the Blob a unique movie monster, and makes it really different from everything else. Yeah, there are some the rear projection and that one scene where it's moving along and like picking people up. Those are really the only two like weak spots. But yeah, like you said, like you never know what's going to happen. Like spoiler alert, they kill off that one little kid. And you're like, wow, I can't believe they actually did that to a kid.
It's awesome.
But yeah, there's a lot of really, really cool stuff in this movie. So yeah, it's a really solid pick. Everybody else for Blob 88.
This is my 101. So close.
No. It was fine for a schlocky horror film. I will agree it's definitely better than the old 50s one because you actually got more Blob in it, and it's the kind of movie that I can sit and watch and have fun. I would never call it a favorite on my list, but it's fine for what it is.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I've seen the original one, and it doesn't like rise above being a B movie for me. But you guys made this one sound a lot more interesting, so I'll check it out.
All right. We're going to go to your number 65, Ethan.
All right. My number 65 is The Skin I Live In. This is Pedro Almodovar's Skin I Live In. It's really hard to categorize this movie. I mean, it is like a horror. It's a thriller. It's really dark. I mean, it's about Antonio Banderas plays this. I think he's some kind of scientist or he's a plastic surgeon, and he's trying to develop skin that is resistant to any damage. And the reason he's doing this is because of a personal tragedy in his back, in his history, and it takes some turns that I will not say anything about, and the way that the plot progresses and the way that you're fed information with, told through flashbacks and other perspectives on things. It becomes a really horrifying movie, and the way that it's edited and put together, I think is just like phenomenal, and it just keeps you on your toes, and it's so well constructed, and the acting is so. I mean, Antonio Banderas him and Almodovar together are like they're one of those perfect pairings, like Scorsese and De Niro and like all those ones. Like he's so good in all these movies that Almodovar makes, but this is my favorite by him. And I have a special place in my heart for this one because this movie was the first date I ever went on with my partner I've been with for years now. We went to a bar in Brooklyn called Videology that is no longer with us. Rest in peace. And we saw this movie together, and it was awesome. And so I'll always, this will always hold a special place for me. But it's really dark, it's really disturbing, but it's also it's so good.
Okay, this is another one I haven't seen, partially because I just didn't have time to get to it this week, but also you can blame Nazario for his description of it in his last top 100. Like so many things Nazario did in that show kind of turned me off to this one. So, but you made it sound interesting, so maybe it's something I'll check out. But I have not seen it yet. Anybody else seen The Skin I Live In?
I have not seen this, but it does not surprise me that if Ethan found someone else who would enjoy this movie as much as him, that would be a relationship that would work. That doesn't surprise me at all.
I adore the Go on, Cody. You can say you haven't seen it, and then I can go.
Yeah, no, thank you. Bye.
I adore the three Almodovar movies I've seen, but the ones I really love are much more in the melodramatic end. All About My Mother, Julieta. I was the one ringing the bell for that year. I haven't seen Skin I Live In. I think there is something that pushes me off because it is one of his more weirder films, but we'll see. I really respect Almodovar as a director.
All right, Ethan, what is your 64?
All right, my 64. We're taking a real turn here. It's going to be very different from what I've been talking about. This is The Return of the Living Dead, 1985. I wanted to put a horror movie with great practical effects on my list this week, so I had to include this one. And it's in my opinion the best zombie movie ever made. It's a spiritual successor to The Night of the Living Dead in that it's about some characters who find canisters with the zombies from Night of the Living Dead, and they break them open accidentally, and it releases, zombies again. And this movie it's so fun. It's very, very 80s, but in the best way. Like, the music is very 80s. Like, you're following a gang of like punk rock teens, and like they're fighting these zombies, and the practical effects are so insane. But for like, it's like the perfect 80s horror practical effects. It's really gross. There's a lot of like goopiness. All the zombies are, they're decomposing in really fun ways. But this movie does zombies in a really interesting way, and like it gives you a motivation for the zombies and like why the zombies are doing the zombie things that they usually do. This is one of the only movies I could think of where you have a character who you witness his transformation to a zombie in a really, really interesting way, where he's like aware of it and he's reacting to it in a way that I feel like I haven't seen in other movies. It's funny. There's some really great moments where, like, I don't want to give it away, but like there's a zombie. The zombies are sentient in a way, so the zombies are calling for backup so they can get more humans to eat, and they're fast zombies. They're not the slow Romero zombies. So it is really scary. The characters, they have to figure out ways to fight strong, fast zombies. And it's just like, if you like practical effects and gore and really smart zombie things, this is a great movie while also being super campy. And it has one of the best horror movie endings ever, on par with The Mist for me. And yeah, it's perfect. I love it.
Okay, I watched this and I enjoyed it. I like what the effects are great. That first zombie that in the basement is so amazing. I just love the effects to that. The creature design. It's a lot of fun. It does take a lot of different twists from the zombie movies. I'm a purist. I like slow zombies. I'm not a fan of, like, to me it's like when a zombie can talk and it's intelligent and it's doing stuff, like it's planning, like that's not really a zombie anymore. It's something different. But it's a fun movie. The gang, that 80s punk gang, is so terrible. Like, it's just like somebody's it's like just a like 65-year-old studio executive his idea of what like a punk street gang is. That part's rough to watch, but yeah, there's a lot of fun effects and some cool stuff going on. I'm not a fan of the ending. I feel like it's just like, oh, we got to wrap this up. Let's put a little bow on this and be done for the day. But greatest zombie movie of all time is crazy. A little bit of a spoiler: it's not the best zombie movie that's going to be talked about tonight. But there are, I mean, you know me, I'm much bigger fan of the Romero movies and zombies, just that mythos. I like how it kind of tries to build off that, but I'm just not as much a fan as what this does with that whole world. Anybody else seen Return of the Living Dead? And if so, what do you think about it?
I have seen it, but it's probably been 30 years, and so I honestly don't remember anything about it. So I can't comment.
I haven't seen it.
I'm really glad Beller submitted a list to you and not me, because I'd had to do a lot of homework, so no thanks.
Fair enough.
All right, and that was your 64. So we're back to Brian with his 68 or 67. I'm sorry.
My 67 is Monty Python's Life of Brian. So Monty Python, they made far too few films. They only made a few films, and this one I think gets overshadowed a lot by Holy Grail, which more people are familiar with. But this one is actually it's a very smartly made movie. It's a very funny movie. It's a great satire of like religion. It's not even people. It's very controversial because people think it's like, making fun of God and Jesus and all this thing, but it's not. It's making fun of religion, of people, the people that attach ceremony, religious beliefs and things to their beliefs in God, and so it's basically about a story about this guy named Brian who is born in the stable next to Jesus, and kind of his whole life ends up kind of parallel. You know, the wise men show up and they think he's Jesus at first, and they go the other one. Later on, he's mistaken for the Messiah and has all these obsessive followers following him around, worshiping everything he does, even if he drops his shoe. At the end, you know, there's a crucifixion where he's up on, and there's a whole musical number where they're doing a kick line up on the crosses. So it's very Monty Python. There's a weird scene in the middle with like a spaceship shows up, which is kind of weird and out of place, but you know, that's nothing new for Monty Python, especially Terry Gilliam, you know, who always inserts animations and stuff in there. So it's kind of the same kind of thing. But it's just a movie that I think, like I said, I think it's overshadowed by Holy Grail, but I think it's very smart. It's the comedy is great. Obviously, all the Monty Python troupe members play multiple roles, and they all fit them perfectly. A lot of fun.
If I was going to make a movie called Life of Brian, it would just be about Brian Michaels coming up with ways to make me miserable watching movies, because I think that's what gives Brian his purpose in life, is making me unhappy through the medium of film. But I'm going to surprise you guys. This might be the biggest surprise of the show so far. I didn't completely hate this movie. I went in thinking this is going to be just, you know, standard Monty Python fare, and it's actually, unlike Holy Grail, it actually makes like a baseline attempt to be clever. It just doesn't, you know, rely on like funny noises and funny words. Like,
we'll talk about that statement later.
They're actually doing something. Like you said, I expected it was just going to go like I expected it was going to be something like trying to be like offensive and like blasphemous and stuff like that. But it's really not. It's just like set in that time period, and it's more. It's a comment on fanaticism more than is even like just, you know, just religion or belief or anything. It's just about fanaticism, and you know, it has some clever things to say about that. I feel the first half is a lot stronger. I think pretty much where you said once the spaceship comes in, I think it turns into like the bad Monty Python, where, you know, you have Pontius Pilate and the joke is like his voice and like his speech impediment. Just that goes on way too long, and you get like a lot of those Monty Python moments that I relate to Monty Python. But there was like I said, there was some like actually clever jokes in this movie. So I was really looking forward to tearing this apart, but I can't because it had some good stuff in it. So everybody else on Life of Brian.
Yeah, I'm shocked that I mean, I didn't know how many Brian and I would have crossover on in our taste, but like I love this movie. This movie's so funny. It's not quite my favorite Monty Python movie, but it's up there. It is. Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, I am shocked that Kirk likes it, because I do think it does have that same sense of humor as all the other stuff, but it is in a little maybe more clever way. I guess there is more stringing it along, and I think that just the whole concept of a guy named Brian who like becomes the Messiah accidentally, and he like the way he just doesn't want it, but everyone just forces it on him the whole time, and he's just like, stop, I don't want this, but it's so funny, and yeah, like you said, like the way it skewers religion in certain ways that for the time I feel like was kind of maybe not brave, but it was something that a lot of movies didn't do back then necessarily, and for it to be so popular is really surprising. I disagree with Kirk that Monty Python, you know, they don't utilize funny voices and noises, because those are funny. He even called them funny, so I mean, you can't really argue with that. Yeah, the ending of this movie is incredible. The whole crucifixion scene and everything. Yeah, it's great. It's a great pick.
I'm pre-Aing this before Cody speaks to the Cody Hates Comedy list. I just know him. So it doesn't get to go on the penis list, but it does get to go on the Cody Hates Comedy list.
It does go on the penis list. It does go on the penis list. Graham Chapman's penis is in this movie. Yes.
I need to pay more.
What are we on, 5?
Yeah.
He opens up the window in the morning, and all his followers are out there, and he's standing there.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I'll start taking some screenshots.
We'll do a montage at the last episode.
It'll be the last show ever. Good way to go out.
That'll be the next top 10 list on your list. Top 10 penises in movies.
Oh, I'm like for this. Okay. I like to be quite bad. I like Monty Python's brand of humor. I think Meaning of Life is where it goes wrong. Compared to I love Holy Grail, and that would be is the Holy Grail of Monty Python movies for me. I appreciate the narrative forwardness of this movie that I think lacks in other Monty Python movies. I have nothing intelligent to say. It's a funny movie. It's fun.
Hey, Koho, I need you to make a note that we are removing Kirk from all future episodes. Apparently, he just decided to be a new version of his damn self and be on the show today. This movie's ass. Monty Python is ass. They're not funny. I waited for this entire movie to chuckle. Did not. And you can put it on the board. You can give me 6 stars. I don't give a fuck what Zach Ford wants on the board anyways. This isn't comedy. Comedy's supposed to make you laugh. This doesn't make me laugh. This makes me sad. So, yeah. I think the spaceship was the best part because I was hoping to get on it and get the fuck out of here. But, it lasted. So, cool. I'm glad you guys like this movie, and I can't wait for the Monty Python to come up later, probably.
Yeah, so. This will be the last good thing I say about Monty Python. You can trust me on that, Cody.
I need you to rewatch it with your normal glasses. Were you wearing your glasses? Did you have the volume up? I don't think you did.
This is a monumentous occasion. It's the first time ever in this community someone has encouraged me to like movies less.
Yeah, I need you to.
I've never been accused of liking movies too much.
The reason why you're in the chair is because you hate movies, and now all of a sudden this show, you're like, oh, that's not a bad movie. Who are you?
Well, you know what? You're learning more about me every day. What do you know? There's layers. All kinds of layers. Brian, what is your number 66?
Well, since Cody hates comedy, we're just going to keep my comedy train rolling with number 66, which is Strange Brew. Strange Brew, of course, Rick Moranis and David Thomas as Bob and Doug McKenzie, started out on SCTV characters. A lot of times when they take characters from a TV sketch show and try to make a movie of them, it's really hit and miss. More miss than hit. Very few of them are successful. You kind of take these characters off of their small setting and kind of release them into the world, and it usually doesn't work. In this case, I thought they worked great, and a lot of that is just due to the two main actors and their characters. They're just very genuine. They're very fun. I mean, this is a PG film, but it wasn't a family film by any means. It's just like these two just kind of innocent guys getting mixed up in basically this movie is my favorite version of Hamlet. With the possible exception of Lion King. This movie is Hamlet. Bob and Doug McKenzie are the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern kind of making their way through the story, but it's got, the dad dies, his brother marries his widow, and is taking over the kingdom, in this case the brewery. His daughter is seeing his ghost, and like I said, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern here, Bob and Doug McKenzie are kind of helping her and overthrow the villain and all this. So it's Hamlet. It's even called Elsinore Brewery in the movie. And it's probably the most fun version. But I mean, if you know Rick Moranis, if you know the characters from SCTV, this is just a very good movie. It's very smartly written and a lot of fun.
This is another movie I wasn't expecting to really not like, because like you said, when you take characters from a sketch comedy show, character it's meant to be on screen for 5 minutes, you stretch it out to a feature film, it very rarely works. And I almost always hate it because it's a one-note joke and they just keep doing it over and over again. It gets really annoying. But I like this movie for the most part. I think definitely mostly.
Cody is so going to fire you.
For... because of Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas, just the performances are just so sincere. The way they play these, like I said, I shouldn't like these characters, but because of them, I do. And I just the way the way they talk and just the way they interact with each other is really good. For me, it kind of the third act kind of falls off a cliff, and it becomes the movie I expected the whole thing to be, where it just becomes like kind of just ridiculous and silly. But the rest of the movie I really enjoy. Everybody else on Strange Brew.
I haven't seen this, but it looks like a fun Rick Moranis movie. I really like Rick Moranis, and I'll probably watch it at some point. I just haven't got around to it yet, but I do think I would enjoy it.
I haven't seen that either. Cody died.
I haven't seen it.
All right. Easy enough. Go on to Brian 65.
65 will be the better zombie movie we'll talk about, or maybe not talk about, who knows. Shaun of the Dead. Nobody else's top 100. This movie has been talked about to death on this show, just like most Edgar Wright movies. So, I mean, there's not a whole lot more to say about it. But I mean, this is just like a lot of other people. This is my first introduction to Edgar Wright, as well as Simon Pegg and Nick Frost and all them. But I mean, I immediately loved it. Loved the style of comedy. Loved the style of filming. I immediately, tracked down the TV show Spaced, and then of course all the subsequent films since then I've watched and loved. But yeah, this was at the time kind of something really new. Is this, what do they call it, a rom-com or whatever they call it, a zombie romantic comedy? But it kind of has the best of both worlds. It was a good horror film with the zombies. It was a good comedy. Edgar Wright has a great use of music. He has a great visual style to him. It's very kinetic. I think it's kind of like in the post Pulp Fiction Tarantino era, where there were a ton of people kind of trying to imitate Tarantino's style with very mixed results. I think nowadays there's a lot of people trying to get that Edgar Wright kind of style to it, and again, it's kind of mixed results. But he's definitely, I think, had an impact. But yeah, this movie's been talked about to death. But I love this movie.
Yeah, I love this one too. I stand by it and I'll argue it. I think this is the best of the trilogy. I think this is the best character that Peg plays in the trilogy. The script is just so, it might be one of my all-time favorite scripts. It's just such a tight script. And you talk about setup, payoff, and just everything, the way the zombie apocalypse builds. And I just love that opening scene where he's walking around and, he's completely oblivious to what's going on around him. And it's just the world's falling apart. He's so self-absorbed. And, just that idea of him being the zombie and him, waking up to life, and that character arc is so good. And like you said, it's a great comedy. It's a great horror movie, but it has so many great, real, emotional moments with a lot of heart. So yeah, I love this pick. This is a great movie. Everybody else on Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is one of those movies I actually had to check my list to make sure, because I wasn't sure if it was on my list or not, because of how much I do like it. It's not quite as good as Return of the Living Dead. I feel like that's a better zombie movie that people don't really talk about, but I do really love this movie. I think Hot Fuzz is probably my favorite of the trilogy. But yeah, Simon Pegg is great. Like Kirk said, the set-offs and payoffs in this movie are also some of the best in any movie, really. It's super funny. That moment where the gang of survivors just encounters the other gang of survivors that are just like a one-to-one of each other, like doppelgangers almost, it's like one of my favorite scenes ever. I think it's just so funny. The needle drop with "Don't Stop Me Now" at the end, where they're fighting, or towards the end when they're fighting in the bar or the pub, is one of the best needle drops. Yeah, Wright makes incredible movies, and this is there's a reason that this is still up there for his best. Yeah, super fun.
I haven't seen it in 15 years, so I have nothing to say. I loved it then. For some reason, I haven't returned to it except for Hot Fuzz, so someday I will.
I like them. There's a person in this community that makes me want to stop liking them just because they don't shut the hell up, and the guy's only made select few movies, and apparently he's the greatest thing walking. So as long as Holtzman shuts his mouth, it will say good in my gracious. If he keeps talking, it's gonna fall fast. So yeah, it's a good movie.
All right,
I'm just surprised you're the only one.
Bro, what's your 64?
My number 64 is A Christmas Story. So,
nice.
Christmas Story is probably my favorite Christmas movie, actually. And kind of like Cody was talking about how somebody makes him want to like the movie less with Shaun of the Dead. A Christmas Story is a movie that has really had to survive kind of overexposure. I mean, for the last however many years, TBS will play it for 24 hours straight on Christmas Day. And it's kind of gotten, overexposed and talked about. There's a horrible sequel to it and a horrible spin-off to it. And just ignore all that and just enjoy this movie. This is a movie that I just love the comedy style of it. Because it's got this kind of, it's almost like a storytelling style. It's being actually narrated by the author of the book it's based on, Gene Shepard. And he's kind of telling you the story. It's got that very kind of Norman, what's his name?
Rockwell.
Thank you. Norman Rockwell kind of feel to it, kind of that family back in, that was 40s, I think. And it's just kind of a real, an innocent look at a boy in Christmas time. That's all it's about. It's this boy and this Christmas gift he wants. And then it's kind of just showing I don't know, I think a month. It goes from Thanksgiving to Christmas, a month in the life of this family. And I think that Darren McGavin as a father is just a classic character. Melinda Dillon as the mom. Peter Billingsley obviously is as Ralphie. And it's just they play those roles so perfectly, and everything is just, I don't know. It all works together so well. I think a lot of that's due to the way it's directed by Bob Clark, the director of such other great films as Black Christmas, Porky's, and Baby Geniuses. Oh, and Rhinestone too. So apparently the one bright spot on his resume. But yeah, I mean, it's Emily quotable. I mean, especially around Christmas time, you'll find me and my friends just quoting this thing to death, which I will not do out loud here, Cody, because I'm not doing it. Yeah, A Christmas Story.
Yeah, this is another one I really love. This is my top 100. I think the worst thing people can say about this movie is that it's just on TV too much, and to me, that's part of its charm. That's my Christmas Eve tradition. The kids go to bed, and I turn on TBS and watch A Christmas Story. And I'm really bad at wrapping presents, so I wrap presents when I watch it, and it takes me like 2.5 times through to finish it up to like 4 a.m. But yeah, I love. I mean, it's just such a Christmas time. Like the tradition is part of it. But it's also, other than being a great Christmas movie, it's also just a great like childhood movie. It's like really like captures like that like natural just innocence of a childhood of being a child, and you know what you think life is and what life is about when you're a kid. And even though it's very much set in that time period, I think a lot of like the ideas of childhood are very universal. And I love the ending of this movie. I guess I'm just at that age now where I relate to the dad in every movie, but I just love how the dad is the one guy. Like,
it's definitely shifted as I've gotten older. Yeah.
And it's just how it's, you know, the dad throughout the entire movie is the one guy who's just in the background. He's barely a character. He's barely there. He's not connected at all. But you find out at the end, he was the one who got it. He was the one who's paying attention. He was the one that made, you know, his wish come true. And I just, that end scene where he's like, you know, they'll run all over. I love that moment. David McGavin is just so great in that role. So yeah, it's a really good pick. Everybody else on Christmas Story.
Respect for putting it on there. I wanted to. There was a few Christmas movies that I only watch one time a year that I went on there. I hate the argument that it's always on TV. Well, turn the channel. Like, you don't have to watch it. Like, it just because it's playing. I love this movie. It's close up there between that and Christmas Vacation is my favorite, back and forth. And I relate more to Griswold more and more as the years go on with kids, but I will quote part of it. I still love when he drops the bolts and says the fudge, but I didn't say fudge. I said the word. You hear the scream and the thing. My kid heard it from your and you just hear the screaming on the phone. It just still kills me. I watched it this year and like with my kids and stuff when they went to bed, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I'd relate to the dad so much right now, but I am 100% the dad in this role. So this movie, I agree. I could probably watch it when it's not Christmas time, to be honest with you. I think I enjoy it that much. So well done. I really should just bit the bullet and put it on my list.
I feel like I've never seen this movie start to finish. Like, I feel like I've only ever seen, you know, chunks here and there when it's playing just relentlessly around the holiday times, which is, you know, I know you guys already talked about it to death, but I do think that that's maybe one of the reasons I don't like it that much, is because it's just like it was always playing. I'm also like, you know, I will say this, it'll be on the record, it'll be recorded. A bit of a Grinch. I don't like Christmas time that much. And it takes a lot for a Christmas movie to really pull me in. Like you'd need something like a Die Hard, which is like, that's a Christmas movie, you know? But this Christmas movie, personally, you know, it's not a bad movie. It just doesn't do it for me. It's not my type of movie. And I do feel like it's been like force fed into my eyes, like my whole like my childhood, and which is not the movie's fault, but that's why I feel a certain way about the movie that I do.
I'm just making a note for later. Called Die Hard. Okay. All right, Zach.
I love Christmas time because I'm a better and more hopeful person than Ethan is. But
I'm also a Jew, so do what you will.
Oh, that makes sense. I think the only reason, because this easily could be in my top 100, and I think just because I hold it so specifically as a Christmas moment, I have other Christmas movies that will appear, but I think this one just to me is like Christmas Day. It's very specific to that holiday. And I am used to watching in pieces, but I think that's the magic of why this movie works and why it works on TBS 24-hour marathons, because it's so episodic in its fashion that you can tune in any scene and it functions on its own. And also the magic of that is it's like a collection of memories. So the nostalgia of Christmas time, rings so true. And that's, the like greatness of Christmas exists best as a sense of nostalgia rather than a reality. And this movie, I think knows that Melinda Dillon to me is the all-star, and had the page because there's a couple gross out scenes, especially like the eating scene that could be a little much for me to handle, but her like patience and straight facedness sells that so well that makes it work. It makes it delightful, and I love that performance. So yeah, Christoph rules.
All right, Zach, we're gonna go back to you now for your 67.
And my 67, the Newberry award-winning classic Ladybird. So Ladybird, is a combination of two things I really love: Greta Gerwig and Saoirse Ronan, who have made this magical team together. I'm a gigantic fan of Greta Gerwig as a performer since the Greenberg days. I've been following her career. That I was just amazed that she can carry that over in such a specific way, but still have some separation into writing and directing with Ladybird, and then with Little Women as well. But I think this specifically adds a take to the coming of age movie that I don't think had as much realness into delivering a teenage movie about a female character and the connections that she has with her hometown, the connections she has with his parents, I think is something once again so universal, relatable, and they deal with such rawness throughout, especially relationship with her mom, my Laurie Metcalf. Also a great mom in Toy Story. I think has such a trueness to it. There's that like love, but also inability on how to like actually communicate and talk with each other that I think can go with all parents and kids, not just mothers and daughters, to where that has such great payoff by the end when you kind of see the true motherly connection that she feels kind of come out when she hasn't been able to express herself other ways. And Saoirse Ronan became one of our more versatile actors of this generation. I think she is one of my favorite actresses of the generation. Who knew she could do such a kind of comedic role in this? I think she delivers lines, perfectly, and such straight facedness because she says ridiculous, pretentious things that so amusing, but also like such a 17-year-old thing. I still sound like this, I'm sure, and it's just a delightful performance. Just a real, image of what a 17-year-old girl can be like. And it's immensely rewatchable. I'll watch this, every few years for the rest of the time. So I meant to set a timer. I'm failing.
You're fine. I love this movie. It's so good. I've talked about this before. It was on my top 100. I usually hate the coming of age drama genre because it's just so easy to fall back into stock characters and tropes and just nothing feels real or authentic. This movie is the exact opposite. This is coming of age done right. Every character is so real and so grounded and so relatable. Saoirse Ronan, you're right. I think when it's all said and done, we will be talking about her as one of the greatest of all time. And she's so good in this, and she brings such like a life and a reality to this character. And she's so relatable, even to me, to like an old man, like can relate to like this teenage girl, just because like I know that that's a universal experience she's having, even though it's very specific to her. I love the parents, like Laurie Metcalf is so relatable as that mom who's trying so hard to do the right thing, and compared to what she dealt with, she's doing so much better, but she's still completely screwing up despite herself. And just the dad who's going through all this crap, but still just trying to be the dad and do the right thing. The brother, her relationship with her friends, and just her and what's her name, Jonah Hill's sister. What's her name?
Beanie Feldstein.
Beanie Feldstein, yeah. Just their relationship is so cool. How like they just kind of fall in and out with each other. In that scene when they go, they come over on prom night, they go to prom together. It's so much fun. I love this movie. This movie is so good. If you don't like this movie, you don't like movies. There's something wrong with you. Speaking of everybody else, what's your take on Ladybird?
I like Ladybird, not as much as a lot of other people, though. I mean, I was never champion in the Oscar season or anything. But I mean, I enjoy it. Most of that is due to Saoirse Ronan. Like I said, I think she's just an immensely talented actress, and she's just starting out her career, really. But it's nice. It was nice to see her. I think Zach already alluded to her doing something a little more comedic, something a little lighter than all the kind of period stuff that she tends to do. And so I like that. I'm not a big fan of Timothée Chalamet in anything, so he was kind of a negative for me. But otherwise, I enjoyed the movie.
I'll just start off disagreeing about Timothée Chalamet. He's an incredible actor. He's like Saoirse Ronan levels of acting for me, which, in my opinion, I mean, I think people get upset because he keeps getting cast in certain roles, but we're not going to talk about that. Saoirse Ronan she is. I agree with Kirk, like one of the best probably ever, and I can't wait to see like all the crazy things she'll do in all these movies that are, I'm sure, to come. And she's perfect in this movie. I do really enjoy this movie. It does capture a really specific feeling and like a specific time of, in your age and like what you're going through. And like, Kirk said, like he relates to it like as an older man. Like I'm a guy, like, but I still relate to her. Like everyone, I don't know who wouldn't. There's just like a lot going on in this movie that you wouldn't necessarily expect it to do. I mean, Lucas Hedges' his character and like what happens with that character is really smart and clever the way it's handled. Yeah, it's super funny. Greta Gerwig's a great director, great writer, and Tracy Letts. I mean, I love him and everything. Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah, this movie just is so good.
Okay, moving on.
I think, listen, Laurie Metcalf, recycled the role from Roseanne as Aunt Jackie. She did a really good job. She did fantastic in that role. Overall, this movie is blah as you can get. If you want a really good coming of age, go watch Edge of 17. It's way better.
Oh my god.
This movie is dog water. Sorry. And I really wish that I would have hopped out of the vehicle. Like I've said numerous times, Saoirse Ronan should just stay out of the car. Because that's what I want to do this entire movie. So yeah.
Wait, quick question. When was the last time you seen it? Because you've came around in a couple movies, but you've embraced hating this so much that I think it'll be hard for you to turn. But you've turned around in other movies.
I saw it in 2017.
Oh, it's time.
Might be time for
next time I win the Oscars, you're watching Ladybird.
You'll never win, and I'd rather drink bleach. So
this movie's way better than Edge of 17.
Yeah,
incorrect.
Yeah, I'm remembering that Edge of 17 comment.
That's fine. That's a fair statement. That is a fair statement. It stands the test right there.
Zach, 66.
My number 66 is unfortunately not the movie I love called Pan, but it is Pan's Labyrinth.
Yikes.
I am shocked.
It's going to be quick because this one's going to be a super yikes, I'm sure, which is my 65 is Jurassic Park.
Yikes.
Okay. My 64 also bound to be someone's top 10. It's 2010's French animated film without language, The Illusionist, by the great director Sylvain Chomet.
Well, Ethan, you sure? You sure?
No.
Yeah, Ethan likes the Edward Norton one.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought.
This is what we were hitting at with Koho. No, this is French animated film by Sylvain Chomet, who is honestly one of the more devastating careers in as far as he hasn't made an animated movie since then. He also did Triplets of Belleville, which kind of got his name known, but he was like bound to be one of my favorite animators. His use of color to me has the right level of dullness. It's really beautiful. Not to like compare things to video games. My computer is about to die, so I'm going to have to run. But it's really similar to the Professor Lupin games that's use of color, but mainly the sense of melancholy to have to do with magicians to me is it's real sad and real. People who are so passionate about something but start to lose their passion or age out of it is something I've have been really drawn to. Everybody else, tell me you haven't seen it, and we'll move on. And I get my cord.
Yeah, this will be quick. I have not seen this one yet. Anybody else see this?
I've seen bits and pieces of it, but I have not seen enough of it to make a judgment.
Yeah, I have seen the Edward Norton version of this movie, and
In Cody, I'm assuming no.
I think that's a safe bet.
Yeah,
No,
that's
here.
Sorry.
All along, this wasn't plugged in. Who knew?
I feel really bad because Kathy is thinking of the Edward Norton Illusionist because she's really excited about that because she really likes that movie. She likes that I don't want to put her on the spot, but she likes the illusionist more than the prestige.
Should we just
I
talk
wanna
about
have
that
one
one, the
thing.
illusionist?
Yeah. I'll take a little more time since I went past, but back. I just want to add that I must have been really inspired about this time. I'm kind of a goofy guy, and I love comedies. My creative mind's more comedic, but I took a creative writing class, and for some reason everything went super dark. And I wrote a long story about a alcoholic magician that eventually committed suicide. That I think was just the most extreme version of what this story was. But I also want to say, other than just artists in this film, like the magician that just like never got to achieve his dreams, so kind of aged out of it. There's other things. There's like some mimes and some acrobats, and most like devastating a ventriloquist. There's nothing more sad than a lonely homeless ventriloquist. It just
Maybe you should have stopped talking.
The vibes are the silly point.
I will tell you, if none of you would like this movie, but maybe Ethan would. There's also no dialogue. It's all like Charlie Brown speak. It's all like yappa 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 dupa dupa.
Oh, then I'm definitely.
You had me that you lost me.
I'm in. Jack. I'm gonna watch it.
It's very inspired by what's his face, who did Mansour's Holiday. Wait, my blank his name. The French comedian, silent comedian. But that's what this. He actually wrote the movie.
Can I get a copy of that short story about the?
I'm
serious here. I want to read the story about the suicidal magician. Can I get a copy of that? I'm serious.
I don't think it exists, and that's a good thing.
If you find it, I want to see it. All right, that was your 64. So we're moving on to the speed round. It is Cody with his number 63.
Oh, it's back to me already.
Yep.
Okay, so I don't know. Maybe I'll talk about it. My 63 is Ocean's 11, and yes, not the original. It's the 2001. Cool. Okay. Yes. Kirk had this at 2 stars. I remember. And then picked the 60s one over this. I could have picked probably 2 of from the Ocean trilogy, to be honest. This is the only Ocean's one that features on my list, and I think it's the first one. I think it works the best. I think the characters that you don't really know all coming together to make this heist work. It's kind of just has that appeal where all the superstars of Hollywood basically show up and do a movie together, and it just looks like they're having a ton of fun during it. I think Andy Garcia is actually a fantastic bad guy in this, where he's kind of he's stopping them in every way, but Danny's got a plan on every little motion that he can stop. I don't understand how anybody can just turn this movie on and not have fun with it. It's a really enjoyable movie. Maybe it's not as realistic because yes, they do the impossible, but that's the point of a movie. If it had Sinatra in it, I know Kirk would like it more, but this movie, from start to finish, is funny. It's creative in their heist plans. So yeah, I love the Ocean's trilogy. This one's just my favorite of the 3.
Okay, I did revisit this. I did revisit this one. I reevaluated. I didn't want to update my letterbox yet because I don't want to give anything away for the show tonight. My opinion did go up of it. I do think it's good. I still don't think it's great. I think it has a lot of good. It has a lot of good things going for it. I think I always love Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt's always fun, and him and Clooney together are good. And all the characters, just all the different. I like how there's I like movies where people every character has a thing. It's almost like in a way they all have their own superpower, their own ability to do certain things, and I really like that. I just don't think the heist is I think the planning of the heist and watching the heist, them get ready for the heist is more fun. The heist itself to me isn't that interesting or that that great. That part is kind of the downside of the movie for me. But still, going back and rewatch it, I liked it. I do feel like you said, that's always been my problem. It feels like, oh, let's just get every popular celebrity together and put in a movie. It's kind of like a gimmick. And that's why I still like the original better, because it's more, I feel like that is more organic.
They didn't get the Rat Pack together to do that movie?
Yeah, but they were already together. It wasn't like they just pick and chose like all the popular actors. That was already a group that was together that just made a movie together. But no, like I said, my opinion definitely approved of it. And if I watched it again, I might like it more. I just think
3 stars or 3.5 or 2.5.
No, it's going to be higher too. It's going to be at least probably 3.5. It'll probably be 3.5.
I'll take it.
But no, it's a I think they're better heist movies. I think they're better Soderbergh heist movies. But still, like it's arrows pointed up for me. Everybody else on Ocean's 11.
This movie's a blast. I mean, it is like the perfect heist movie, and I'm with Cody. I think that like all the people that all the A-list stars they plucked in and put together in this group is so fun for me. And like, I mean, I kind of prefer them to just take a bunch of people who aren't part of a group already and then mash them together than like a pre-existing group of cool guys. But actually, I haven't seen the original Ocean, so I can't really compare. But this one's super fun. It's a really energetic movie. All the characters are super not relatable. They're really like fun and cool, and you want to like hang out with them. The way that like Vegas is shot is really fun, and I think the heist is actually executed like really, really well. I think that every great heist movie needs the moment where the plan goes wrong and then it goes right, and it was right the whole time, you idiot, and this movie does that so well. I think, unfortunately, it does go down after this. Ocean's 12, I really don't like. 13, I think I like. It's been a while, but this one is easily for me the best one. And Andy Garcia's fantastic villain. The ending is great, where they tease that he didn't really get away with it, but yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree and disagree with Kirk, just in that. I mean, I think the heist itself is maybe kind of the least interesting part of it, although I'd still enjoy it. But I enjoy the movie a lot more because I think that the cast they put together obviously is having a great time together, and I really think that's kind of why they did this movie. This is a movie that, if they a studio just tried to hire all these people to make a movie, they probably couldn't do it because they wouldn't be able to afford that many stars in one film. But I mean, obviously, this was put together with between Clooney and Soderbergh and all these people. They all kind of knew each other either directly or through some of the other stars of it, and they kind of all decided to come together and just make this cool movie with all of them together, and they're clearly having fun. I mean, because Soderbergh had done Aaron Brockovich with Julia Roberts and Out of Sight with George Clooney and et cetera, et cetera. But, they're having fun making the movie, and you can kind of tell that, and it's kind of infectious because you feel that, and then you enjoy the movie that much more. It's just a fun flick, yeah.
I came really late to this. I think I watched it for the first time last year. I saw Ocean's 13 in theaters, and so then for 10 years, that was the only one I've seen.
Did you go with Nazario's dad?
I remember Nazario's dad, and we held hands throughout. It was lovely.
Yikes.
But your yikesing Nazario's dad, that's going to be in a later episode. Okay. I kind of love Soderbergh's, which is now kind of an antiquated idea of the power of a movie star. He just likes putting these big Hollywood movie stars in his movies, and the power of having a group of them together, and the chemistry they can perform together can really create. And Oceans is like the prime of 2000s movie star power with Damon Affleck, Casey Affleck, yeah, Damon, Clooney, and Pitt. Those are three people I grew up to, learn what a movie is from. So it's just great seeing how they interact with the screen and all deliver their own specific charm. So it's a lovely. I still haven't seen 12. I will soon. Brad Pitt marathon, baby.
All right, Eve, let's go to your 63.
All right, I've given you the Blob. I've given you The Skin I Live In. I've given you Return of the Living Dead. And now I give to you When Harry Met Sally.
I give you a yikes.
Shocker.
Absolutely not. Not today.
I figured.
I like this new way of saying your whole list before you say your next one.
Brian, that takes us to your 63.
Wait till my next one, Zach.
My 63. Well, I gave Strange Brew. I gave you Shaun of the Dead. No, my 63 is The Fisher King. The Fisher King is a movie that I think a lot of people have not seen or maybe not familiar with. Even though it was nominated for like 5 Oscars, including actor and screenplay, 1 supporting actress. It's Terry Gilliam, who obviously we talked about Monty Python earlier today. And he's definitely an odd one. This is probably one of his most mainstream films, though. It's definitely got those Terry Gilliam isms to it. There are moments and scenes that are kind of surreal, but for the most part, it's a fairly straightforward film. Jeff Bridges plays this basically shock jock who his kind of flippant words just to a caller on the air kind of set him off to go commit this mass shooting. And so his life falls apart. The DJ's life falls apart. And then he runs into Rob Williams, who's this homeless man whose his life has fallen apart for a whole tragedy of his own, which you find out more about later in the movie. And it's just kind of and Bridges wants to, I guess, kind of redeem himself, hopefully in the eyes of the world or whatever, by helping out Perry, Rob Williams' character, on his quest to find the Holy Grail, because he's not all there, obviously. But it's definitely a dramedy, because there's definite comedy to it. I mean, it's Robin Williams, who I think this is one of the best roles as far as combining his frantic, manic comedy style with also his serious acting. I think he does a phenomenal job in this movie. There is Robin Williams' penis in this, Zach, so mark that one down. Sorry,
we're at 22 penises.
I totally lost my train of thought, but yeah, I mean it's beautifully filmed. There's a couple sections in this, especially. It's definitely got that. It's got that Gilliam surrealness, which just actually makes these scenes so beautiful. Like one's in a train station, Union Station. Yeah, but this is just a film that I think, even though it's gotten like award consideration, it has not gotten a whole lot of attention that it deserves.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of people haven't seen this. I am one of them. It's one I do want to see. It's just the idea of Gilliam and Robin Williams together sounds really fascinating to me. So it's just one I haven't got around to yet, but I do want to see it. Everybody else on Fisher King.
Kirk could go either way on this, and I cannot predict. So I need you to watch it, because
it really could.
I really like this film. It's one of those ones. Once again, I have bad memory. I've only seen it a few years ago, and yeah, I'm struggling with coming up with a lot of thoughts about it. I do want to say that between Fisher King and Brazil, Terry Gilliam is a director that I've given the benefit of the doubt of for years, sometimes or mostly undeserved, because he hasn't been able to replicate it. I think the magic of Fisher King is it's his most grounded in a lot of ways. He still has his touches to it, but it's still a story that exists on this real life. With characters that are elevated but still exist as real people. And Robin Williams was at his prime in the 90s, and this is one of his greatest performances. It's a delight. So great movie, good pick.
I've only seen parts of this growing up, and I would like to watch the whole thing because I love Terry Gilliam. I just never got around to it, but I will watch it at some point.
I watched this movie this year, and I'm a huge Robin Williams fan. I just felt like the movie was too long. Like, it overstayed its welcome for me a little bit, and I don't think the humor. Again, and it was a little bit of an overhype because the people saw it and they're like, "Oh my god, this movie's incredible!" And then when I watched it next, I was like, "It didn't get to that hype for me." It's still a good movie. I don't think it's bad. It's just maybe another rewatch or something will help on it, but it just didn't click fully for me. And Terry Gilliam, I mean, not a shocker, not a big fan. So.
Yeah, his career in the last decade or so has not gone so well.
See, I like Gilliam stuff, like even bad Gilliam movies, like the Gilliam stuff in the the Brothers Grimm. That's a terrible movie, but like the Gilliam stuff it is still fun.
I agree.
Actually, and it's not on my list, but if you get a chance to watch The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, about the disaster when he tried to make the movie, it's an excellent film. Yeah, it's actually the movie's called Lost in La Mancha. It's a documentary about when he tried to make it.
The movie's pretty good too. Yeah, actually,
the movie's okay. I think it would have been better if they did the original version of it, but
fair enough.
All right, Zach, what is your 63?
My 63 is Harlan County U.S.A. This is a documentary from the 70s about coal mining. I'm going to fuck up everything. Coal mining in West Virginia, correct? Not Kentucky.
I think it is Kentucky.
God damn it. Okay. Nothing to say matters. Harlan County, USA. So they place in Kentucky, really capturing the kind of forming of the union protests against, some of the mining, minors' rights that was going at the time, and the pays and how dangerous it is. This is something I just deeply connect to as part of my ancestry. My mom's side and my dad's side both come from Southern Ohio, Kentucky, from coal mining roots. I've had a lot of my great grandparents and my great uncles, my grandma's siblings, died from black lung disease from coal mining, and so this was just like a insight into the life that my family has led that I've never gotten to see other than being into the towns, and it is really raw and kind of brutal in ways and how they depict this kind of lifestyle, but also inspiring into how everybody can get together and fight for their rights, and the power of community and unionization. And the use of music throughout this film is really powerful. It uses diegetic music as far as having locals sing songs, and then they play it kind of overlapping. So it's like diegetic, but then playing like as a soundtrack that adds a real authenticity to that environment, and it just shows a real love for that Appalachian area, and an empathy for those people. That is what the power of documentaries are, is to get us to understand even our own land and our country and other people around us better. So great movie.
We talked about this during the 70s episode. That's something you and I have in common. I come from 3 generations of United Mine Workers. My great grandfather was involved in the early formation of the unions in Western Pennsylvania, and he had to deal with the Pinkertons coming in and busting heads and all that stuff. And then I remember when I was a kid, a lot of the stuff you see in this movie in the 70s was still going on in the 80s. I remember when I was a kid, in my the mines that my grandfather and my dad worked at would go on strike, and just the stress and just everything dealing with that. And that's why I really love this movie, because I see a lot of my life in it. Like you said, I see people oh, that's my dad, that's my mom, that's their friends, that's the people who came to my house, when I was a little kid. Just very familiar. I watched this with my dad, sat down and watched with him and with my kids, and had him kind of share that part of his life and his history with them. We actually did it last Labor Day, which is pretty cool. But that just really is a special connection for me. I really especially enjoy the fact how they focus on the women, the wives and the mothers in this, and how what a strong place the role they play in the unions and the striking and everything, because that was my mom and my grandma. They were on the news a lot because they were causing trouble. Whenever there was a strike or whenever something was going on, that's really how those people are. That's how they live. And I just really love how they're presented in this movie, and it's very respectful. These people live in a very ugly, they're forced to live in a very ugly world, and they're presented with a lot of dignity and respect. So I really enjoyed this. Has anybody else seen this one?
No, but you sold me on it. Sounds interesting.
I think it's on Criterion Channel.
Yes.
So that takes us to number 62 with Cody.
All right. So another groundbreaking film, Uncut Gems. Okay, I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. This is my favorite movie of that year. Yes, I put Joker, but Joker was lower. Uncut Gems, I think, is absolutely incredible. This movie, even though I knew very well about the sports moment that this movie is attached to, did not make it any less panicky. This entire movie. I didn't love. Was it Good Time? Was that the name of it?
Yeah.
I wasn't absolutely in love with that one, but this one, their kind of directing style, it's basically chaos every time. You don't get a moment to breathe. Nothing stops. It's just continuously in your face. Something. He gets out of one situation, another thing happens. I have hated Adam Sandler for a really long time because of his later work. I wish he does more stuff like this. I think he's absolutely incredible in this film. I think the overall story is, and it holds up in rewatches. Even the intense moments, it's still I know what's going to happen, and it's still intense throughout the entire thing. I understand how this could be taken. People could be taken out of this movie because he's not a character you want to root for at all. But I just love this movie. I think it's just absolutely incredible. I think he should have been nominated for an Oscar. I think he was great in this film. So Uncut Gems was clear. It still keeps climbing on my list too. So yeah, Uncut Gems.
Yeah, this movie isn't on my list yet, but I've only seen it one time in the theaters. So on rewatch, this is something that could definitely climb for me as well. I love the way this movie is paced. I just love like how he gets in the situation and the movie builds like, okay, this is where it's going to fall apart for him. And then he kind of gets out of it. And then he gets to the next situation and he keeps just getting himself in trouble. And that's what I like about it. It's like, at first you don't want to root for him, but the more he goes, the more you want to root for him just because you want to see how far he can get. And like, you're not necessarily rooting for him, but you just want to see him keep going. And I love that about it. And it's rough because with Sandler, he's doing that voice and that character that he usually does for comedy. So it takes a little while, at least for me, to like calibrate that in my mind to like for this character in this movie and what it was. It took a little while for that to all mesh for me. But once it does, it's great. I think he's great in it. And then those last 20 minutes, I mean, you don't breathe those last 20 minutes. It's just so intense. And just that ending is just so like just a punch in the gut.
And when he when he gets all the stuff to like get out of it and scot free, and he just reaches out the window and says, "Do this," everything on the post-it note, and you're like, "No, stop!"
Yeah,
nope.
and that's what I'd be like. That's good.
I heard that's from like the Safdie brothers, like what they are like their kind of their movies. That's why I think Good Time will actually go up on a rewatch for me. But it just didn't click as much for this one. Maybe because this is more sports and like in my wheelhouse.
No, I like Good Times too. I like this better, but I did like Good Times. But yeah, but like at that moment, like you're like then you can't not be on board with him at that moment. You're like, oh man, okay, let's do this.
This is how I win.
Yeah, exactly. Crazy. But no, great movie, great character, great pick. Everybody else on Uncut Gems.
This was actually one of those that they probably, if I had really thought a little bit harder, would have been on my list. I think because it was so recent, I wasn't thinking about it, but this was also my number one.
You have Strawberry Mansion on there.
Yeah.
The one that isn't even out yet.
All right. We'll get to that. But no, this one was I mean, this movie is incredible. The Safdie brothers, I want to see everything they do until the end of time. I loved everything about this movie. It's one of the most stressful experiences I've ever had in the theater. I love a movie where, I saw this with like a packed house and like you're just hearing everyone groan and like you're seeing people put their hands over their face. And it's not a horror movie or anything. It's just
left on mine.
Yeah, people. Yeah, it's like some people can't even handle how stressful it is, and it's just like the way that it's put together to do that to you is just incredible. I am not a sports guy at all, and so I had no idea what was going to happen with that game. I had no clue. So for me, it was like, that was the most stressful moment of my life in a cinema, probably. It's such a great New York movie. It's a great chaotic movie. Adam Sandler should have been nominated and probably should have won that year. I had something else I wanted to say. Oh yeah, One of Tricks Point Never. The score is incredible. Like you wouldn't think this is the kind of movie like this, like New York crime movie would have like this like synthy kind of ethereal score, but for some reason it just works because it puts you in this like dreamy, hope-filled, headspace that Howie's always in. And then it just, the reality of what's happening brings you right back down and it's such an incredible movie. I probably should have put it on my top 100.
I'll jump in just because I want to talk about the score. The first like 20 minutes, half hour of the movie just gave me such a fucking headache. That music, the whole first section of the movie was just, I mean, I like seeing movies in the theaters with nice, good, loud sound systems, but this one I kind of regret seeing in theaters because it was loud and it was obnoxious and blaring and just, it really kind of set me off in the wrong tone. And then the rest of the movie is just kind of everybody yelling at each other for the next 2 hours, which I get what they're going for. It's that kind of chaos, that intensity. So I get it, but I will say this movie gave me a headache. That being said, I'm not an Adam Sandler fan for the most part. He did a good job here. I mean, he's only tried more dramatic roles a couple times, and obviously there's a little bit of comedy to this one, but it's basically like a dramatic role. And I thought he actually did a pretty good job. I got to give him props for that. So while I would never put this on my list, it's a decent movie. I actually want to watch it again. I've still only seen it the one time in the theater, so I'll watch it at home where I can adjust the volume.
Too loud, too much yelling, says the guy who has Bad Boys on his list.
That'd be weirder if I said there because Too Loud, Too Yelling is just a description of me. But I like Uncut Gems quite a bit, which I also did not love Good Time as much. I would say for the Safdies, I like Heaven Knows What better than both of these more Hollywood projects. So check it out if these two are the ones you're familiar with. Go back a little bit. But Adam Sandler's just genius casting in this. I think just someone able to deliver this kind of anxiety with such speed. He's the person you want to get, someone that can deliver this kind of high-strung, nonstop quickness of energy. It's just perfect. And it's always nice to remind ourselves that Adam Sandler is indeed a great actor when he wants to try, and when he's given a director as his buddy to work with and to bring out the best of him. So it's great as a piece of Adam Sandler history and film. But it as far as something rewatchable, not something I tend to go to a lot of these kind of quick paced, stressful, high anxiety crime movies. It's not a crime movie, but same thing. Kevin Garnett, one of the best basketball players ever. Get it. Next.
All right, Ethan, you're 62.
All right, my 62 is 2014's Force Majeure. All right. I was not sure if I'd get a Zach Yikes on this one, but this is a Swedish movie about a family, the husband and wife and their two sons, who go to a ski resort in France, and they're having lunch outside on this like terrace. It's really beautiful. It's nice. And then there's an avalanche that is seemingly coming towards the whole restaurant, and the father grabs his cell phone and runs away.
This is a rip-off a Will Ferrell movie.
Trust me, I'm gonna get to that.
Yeah.
But he runs away from his family, grabs his phone, pushes past his son, and then it turns out the avalanche was nothing. It was a controlled avalanche that they do every time or whatever at the resort, and everyone's fine. But this one moment where he doesn't even get to choose, it's just like his fight or flight response activates, and it just has like this terrible repercussions for his relationship and his family over the next few days at the resort. And it's just really darkly funny. It's super dry and like philosophical. You just watch these people have these discussions about what it means to be a man or a provider, a father, a husband, what bravery is or cowardice. And it's like, you're hearing all these people who weren't in that situation chime in, and it kind of explores what that's like, how easy it is to say, well, I would have done this if I was there. But the way it plays with that and the ending of the movie and how it kind of, talks about hypocrisy and how easy it is to say certain things. It's just such a fascinating movie. It's gorgeously shot. There's like beautiful long takes. There's like nice, stunning shots of like the Swiss Alps or whatever, or the French, I don't know, wherever the Alps are. It's beautiful, and it's really, really funny. It's really dark, but it makes you think a lot. And there is a terrible, terrible English language remake called Downhill, which I was actually excited about because who wrote it? It's the guys who did The Descendants and
Nat Faxon and
yes.
What's his face?
Jim something, yeah, them, and I was excited because I really like The Descendants and their other movies. Jim Rash. Yeah. And that movie is a travesty in every sense of the word. It completely gets everything wrong about Force Majeure. It is an embarrassment of a remake. It feels like the 10-year-old's version of Force Majeure, but you should watch Force Majeure. That's incredible.
Yeah, I went and watched this. I like this. I think the only problem I had with it is I've been waiting to watch this. I talked about this, Ethan. I've had this on my watch list for a long time. I wanted to watch it. I kind of had an idea of what the movie was going to be like, what I would expect it, and it was a little different. Like the fact that I figured it would be like I knew the inciting incident was. I thought from there it was going to be about like the father and him dealing with it, and then the wife. Like the fact that they kind of set him up as almost like the antagonist of the movie, like after this happens, and it's like was, like I said, just wasn't what I expected. It wasn't necessarily, I guess, to be honest, the story I wanted out of it. But so I want to rewatch it knowing how it's coming, because I think that'll change my perspective of it. But it is like, I love real dry movies like foreign movies like this, that it's hard for the jokes to translate, but they're there. And again, that's another thing. It takes a couple of rewatches to kind of pick up on. I did while I was watching this, knowing that I haven't seen Downhill, but watching this movie, I was like imagining, like I think I know, like I think I know in my head exactly what Downhill is because I'm watching like just what Will Ferrell would do with each of these scenes.
You do. You know exactly. You're right.
And it wasn't good. It's not good. So I probably won't be watching that one anytime soon. And then the other thing that kind of sucked me out of this was the guy I don't know his name. The guy from Game of Thrones. Yeah. He like when you take him out of like a fantasy setting and just try to make him a normal guy, it just doesn't work. Because the dude's walking around and like there's all these normal people, and you basically just have like a Norse god walking around among these mortal men, and it just doesn't look right.
He is a real human being, right? Like
he doesn't look it. He doesn't look it. So that I like him as an actor, but it was just like hard to like buy him as just a guy. But no, it was good. And like I said, I want to rewatch it. I think I'll get more of it on the rewatch. Everybody else on Force Majeure who's seen it?
Well, I'd like to see anything that has Tormund Giantsbane in it. But I'd actually recommend The Last King. You can see a lot of fighting on skis. But this movie actually is one that I've always meant to see, but I never got around to seeing it. And actually, once Downhill came out and I heard how horrible that was, it kind of killed my interest in this one. But you know, now knowing that the original was so much better, I kind of am curious to go check it out.
Only thing I know about Downhill.
Go.
Downhill. I heard so much buzz about Downhill when it was first coming out. Like everybody was so pumped for it, and then it came out and it was shit. And you thought that I knew that there was an original of it? Not a chance. So yeah, maybe add it to my list. Maybe not. I have no.
I have seen Force Majeure, but I haven't seen Game of Thrones. I'm that guy. So to me, when I see stills of him, like, it's the Force Majeure guy. He's a cool cat. I like Force Majeure quite a bit. I think it hits a little too close to home because I just know that's how I'm going to react to an avalanche. I also feel like my wife knows what she's getting into. I don't think there will be any surprises. So, but I think on that movie, it is kind of those like, what would I do type of movies that really help you self-analyze how you would react in certain situations, or the type of person or the type of man you are. So it does deal pretty smartly with the ideas of misogyny because it's no one's really wrong. You can take the white side against them, but there's some real arguments to be made on just what it means to be a man that can go multiple ways. So.
All right. Brian, that takes us to your number 62.
My number 62 is Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So yeah, this is a movie I think people, when they think about Spielberg's movie, I think they kind of forget this one. I mean, not they forget it exists, but I think people forget how great this film is. This one, for me, kind of like I was talking about Robin Williams with his Mr. King with his drama and comedy. This one I think is the perfect intersection of Spielberg's kind of blockbuster movies with his more dramatic stuff, because it's got the whole sci-fi attraction to it, but it's really more of a drama more than anything else. I mean, it's a movie about obsession. I mean, Richard Dreyfuss, who in what I think is probably one of his best performances ever, kind of becomes obsessed with he's seeing these visions of the mountain and things, and eventually going to try and find out what it is and see these UFOs. And in the process, basically abandons his family. It's the kind of they kind of show how his relationship with his family has fallen apart, and then he eventually takes off, and they're left kind of trying to find out what happened to him. Excuse me, I'm choking to death. But I mean, in addition to that, it also explores like everything from religious beliefs, because there's these in some of these other cultures are kind of worshiping these UFOs they're seeing through the air. And so it kind of explores that aspect of it. Music, I think, is super key to this film. I mean, John Williams is obviously known for his more bombastic scores for things like Star Wars and Indiana Jones and Superman and stuff like that. But music in this movie, the whole score, but especially in that climactic scene on Devil's Tower, where they're communicating through music. And I think that scene alone, music plays such a key part to that. And it's just so well done. And the Spielberg, I think, really kind of, Jaws obviously was a great film, but I think in this one he kind of came into his own as far as mixing the blockbuster and the dramatic.
This is a good movie. It's got a lot of really good Spielberg stuff, and I just love like the character moments. Like it has so much of that like those like Spielberg conversations and things like that, and just that sense of wonder it presents. Of even though it's like kind of scary, and like you said, it's about like there's a lot of like a dark side to it. Like just that sense of wonder of the that scene where they're communicating with the music and everything. The one thing that really turns me off to this movie, and you mentioned it, is just the way he completely abandons his family. Makes it really hard for me to root for the character after that, especially like when he's going like, he kisses that other woman before he leaves. It's like, dude, where are your wife and kids at? And I don't like the way the movie handles it. Like the movie kind of presents it like it's okay that he does it. Like it almost plays that scene for laughs. And once that scene, after that scene, like I kind of check out the whole movie. Like I'm done with the character. Like that's not okay to me. And, but other than that, like on a technical level, it's a really good movie. What's everybody else's take on Close Encounters?
The first time I ever saw this was one of those Fathom events where they put it back in theaters. So it was a gift and a curse because it was awesome to see it in theaters for the first time, and it was a curse because before the movie they played like an introduction and they showed scenes from the movie.
No.
And I was like, "Why? I haven't seen it yet. Stop!" But I love this movie. I think it's great, and everything Brian said about the music and like how that plays into it is so fun. I disagree with Kirk about the ending. I actually love the choice to have him abandon his family and go into space with these aliens, because I think it really like it's definitely not what you'd expect the ending to be. And it's also like his character the whole movie is built up as being obsessed with this thing and feeling this purpose, that like this drive that he can't fight. And then when he's presented with this moment of being able to go travel the universe with aliens, like it's like the most awe-inducing thing anyone could ever comprehend, and he's already been drawn to it. So like the decision that he makes to do that is almost not even a choice. It's like he can't help himself and he has to do it. And like how crazy the experience would be to just go with aliens and see the world, the galaxy or whatever. So I'm not agreeing with that choice or saying it's like right or whatever, because he does have a family and he abandons them, but I think it's a really like bold move to have your protagonist do that at the end, especially for a Spielberg movie. And yeah, I think it's like one of Spielberg's best with like the sense of wonder and everything Brian said I agree with, and I really respect the ending.
I have never realized how dirty the title of this movie is to right now. Like, what is the third kind? Is that oral? I don't know. It's up for debate. Anyways, I think I appreciate and I enjoy this movie quite a bit, and I like the patience that it gets at the end with the actual encounter. I think the hysteria goes just a little too far for me. That just leaves me a little bit isolated, a little bit distant from the character that I experienced. I never connected with it as much as I have with the other Spielberg blockbusters, because I do connect so deeply with that blockbuster entertainment of Spielberg. I think that's just what's holding me back, but I need to rewatch it too. So I apologize for my joke, and I'll take a break after this top 100's over.
This is not a family show at all. I think that two things that I'm kind of impressed that Brian's the one that has Close Encounters on his list, and like that just doesn't seem. Yeah, but it doesn't seem like of all the Spielberg, this one doesn't seem like the one.
Oh, there's more coming. Don't you worry.
Yeah, I watched this for the first time last year. And I'm with you 100%. I am so surprised that this does not get talked in the same breath. I understand why, of course, because doesn't have the block. But the thing is, I'm okay with the ending of him leaving because he's already checked out from his family most of the movie. This obsession has like put the wedge between his family for the entire thing. Like he's so obsessed, and then he just finally takes off. I think the score is absolutely incredible at this moment. I relate to Richard Dreyfuss at the very beginning of as a dad, as his kids are like asking him for stuff, and then he's just like, "Leave me alone! Like, stop talking to me." He's like a grumpy old man, but he still like does things for his kids. But no, this movie, the score is absolutely incredible. The story, I think, the visual effects that they're able to achieve, that I think still holds up really well. So yeah, I think if I would have watched this again, it would be about the same mark on my list. I just haven't had a chance to rewatch it yet. But Mike, I know Mike Hanley approves. So
All right, Zach, we're moving on to your 62.
I think I might have angered your wife, but we'll move on. My 62 is I Love You Man. Moving back to the mainstream, I Love You Man.
I love you too. What's your 62?
What?
Oh, thank you. That's really sweet. It makes me feel really good. The thing about this, and I have rewatched it recently because we did an episode on the LNC pod. Everyone take a drink. But there's a bro-y quality that normally would be pretty distant or keep this, make me removed from it. But I think Paul Rudd just grounds it so well. I think this is possibly my second favorite comedic performance of all time. There'll be one coming up in a couple of weeks. I think it's just like he's a complete master of the craft. His delivery of awkwardness, of taking it to the right level. And trying to deliver nicknames or try to talk on the phone to a friend like you're talking to your first girlfriend. Is the way he treats Jason Segel. And I think it deals with the idea of a man who's always gotten better with females, which is something I relate to. I think Jason Segel's sometimes can have some misogynistic qualities, but I think the movie's pretty aware of this. But the chemistry between the two is really alive, and really romantic in its way because it does function as a romantic comedy. Like it does follow all the tropes, just takes it through a friendship rather than a romance. It's a platonic romance. But I think the primary thing that keeps us rewatchable is Paul Rudd. He's one of my favorites of all time. I feel like I've appalled people that were on when I did top 10 working actors I have at like number 2 or 3. But there's just something. He's the actor I wished I was if I was a talented person that didn't sound like a stone surfer dude. So I love you, man. Great movie.
Right. Yeah, you didn't upset Kathy. I think she's really excited to find out you're a teacher.
Okay, good. I was worried. She's like, how is this guy allowed to be with kids?
No, this is a weird pick, man, for top 100. I'm going to level it. This is a weird pick. Like, I don't have anything to say. This is a fun movie. I enjoy it. Paul Rudd is great. This one where J.K. Simmons plays his dad, right?
Yeah.
He's great in this. A lot of fun stuff about this. But top 100, that's weird. Like, it's not bad. It's just like a weird call. Like it's one of those movies I watch. I like it. I think about it every once in a while, and I might go back to it. But I mean, top 100. That's off the wall. I mean, I'd expect that from Brian, but not from you. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's the only thing I'd say about it. I'm not gonna disparage the movie at all, but it's because it's a lot of fun. But it's just weird that it made your top 100. Does Segel get naked in this one?
No, not in this one. No,
that was Pedro Marshall.
Yeah, I did.
I mean, the cutscenes they fuck, but
he sits up there. He has the audacity week in and week out to cast judgment and shame on all of us about what is the correct choice and what is not the correct choice. And you pick Jason Segel and Paul Rudd in I Love You, Man?
Legit 2 of my favorite actors of the past decade. So,
the thing is, I enjoy this movie. But the fact that you can sit there and act all pompous week in and week out, and you're sitting here at 62 just waiting to drop I Love You, Man, and you dropped it like you were just going to get in and get out, and like no one was going to say shit about it.
Should have put it at 99 or 69.
Yeah. I think this movie's very funny. Like, there are parts that I can't stand, like that one guy that does the high-pitched voice the entire movie. Everything you got. But the slap of the bass stuff, like Jason Segel and Paul Rudd's back and forth is just really their obsession with all the band of all choices is Rush, which I find still one of the best things about this movie, that they're just in love with the band Rush. But this is just a stupid pick for Zach. Like I feel like this is a Brian. I think they mixed their list or something. This just doesn't make any sense, especially how you've been talking. So, what did this movie teach you? To be a bro?
No, not to be a bro, on how you can find friends at different stages in life, and then you can evolve and make new friends. And I've done that with you,
it was rhetorical.
You are the man I learned to love.
It was a rhetorical question. Don't talk to me.
All right. Okay. Everybody else.
I agree with Zach that I think Paul Rudd and Jason Segel are 2 of the best comedic actors working today. Sadly, Jason Segel has kind of not really been doing these kind of broad comedies for almost 10 years now. I mean, it's like 2014, I think was the last time he was doing. He's got into some more serious stuff or something a little more dramedy side. So I'd like to see him get back to his more just strictly comedic stuff because I really like him. And Paul Rudd, of course, I mean, he's great in everything he is. Whether he's doing a cameo or the lead in the movie, Paul Rudd's great. I was going to say kind of the same thing Kirk said, where, it's a funny movie, but top 100, but I have no room to talk. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's a funny movie. It's a good comedy. There's nothing I can instantly think about it that I don't like as a comedy. But yeah, I don't know. This is a weird choice. It's very high up on your list too. 62 is not that high, but for this, it's pretty high. I don't know, man. Yeah, I like it, but Zach, what's going on? What's going on with you right now? And also,
he's trying to appeal to the critics.
If this movie's
I just have to counteract after I have the illusionist of the Harlan County. I got
well, if you're gonna pick this, I hope that in 10 or 20 picks we're gonna get like Forgetting Sarah Marshall or Get Him to the Greek, because those are better versions of this type of movie.
Did you say Get Him to the Greek?
Yeah, I said what?
Yeah, Get Him to the Greek's great. Let's throw that in there with Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Wow.
I actually also really like
expect to hear that title today.
Either of those in a long time.
Those are both great movies.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall, yes. Get Him to the Greek is where you're wrong.
That's a stretch. All right, we're going to wrap things up here.
You're going to put that down your notepad.
I got it. It's all
okay, I'm just making sure.
Edge of 17's is highlighted, circled, underlined. Trust me.
I'm fine with that. I'm going to actually watch Ladybird tomorrow and give my review next week. Just wait.
Oh, I'm excited. Stay tuned for that. Okay, 61. Cody, what do you got?
So I'm continuing the theme of basketball players in movies. And I'm going to 1998. I'm going to He Got Game. Denzel Washington and Ray Allen. That's in a basketball movie. That's basically a good shot of getting a movie that I really enjoy. Again, this is a thing that I can thank Dustin Mason for. I can't think a lot from him, but this is one that I had to watch this movie, and I've watched it a couple times since. I think it's absolutely incredible. The father and son relationship. Basically, Denzel makes poor choices at the beginning of his life. And gets incarcerated and basically gets a choice that, hey, if you can convince your star-studded son to go to a college for me, we'll let you out. And has to try to build up that relationship by also just like laying out the facts that if he goes to this college, I can get out, and Ray Allen having none of it. Like, I do not care. Like, you are not my dad. I do not know you. And Denzel battling with like being free or him making his own decision. And it's kind of like those flashbacks where he's being the tough dad and like trying to push him into the sports that I think a lot of kids can like relate to. Like their dad's trying to live vicariously through them and be the sports athlete that they want them to be. I just think it's a great father-son moment. That one-on-one scene at the end when he challenges him to one-on-one and, the outcome. I could watch that scene all the time. I think it's absolutely incredible. I think it's Denzel's one of the top 10 Denzel moment roles. And I think Spike Lee does a really good job. I'm not the biggest Spike Lee fan all the time. I think Spike Lee gets in his own way a lot. Like, tries to like, hey, here's the topic I'm trying to give you, and then takes a frying pan and beats you over the head with it. This one is just a simplistic, like, father-son relationship, incarcerated. I think it's a really smart movie. So,
yeah, this is a good movie. Great Denzel performance. I love the relationship between the father and son. Just that idea of like you said, they show him early on like trying to raise him. But I think it's like one of those things. Like, I think it's a real nuanced performance because he is pushing him, and he, maybe he is trying to live vicariously through him. But I think that's also like how he's trying to teach him about life. And I like how this movie uses sport as a metaphor for life. That's always the best sports movies. And just like how he's forced in that position where like he has to kind of like manipulate his son, but he really doesn't have any other choice. And just like how he's always just trying to make up for what he did, and it's something he really can't ever make up for. That one-on-one scene is great. That's the best scene in the movie, and just everything it has. And again, that's that's the metaphor that provides for their relationship is really good. I do agree. Like this this isn't like a typical Spike Lee movie, but he still does have that thing where he's, the characters are like looking directly at you and like, you understand what we're saying? It's like, yeah, Spike, we get it. Calm down. It has a little bit of that in it, but not too much. It's not overdone. So yeah, it's a solid movie. Good pick. Everybody else on He Got Game?
I haven't seen it. I can say nothing about it.
Yeah, I have some weird Spike Lee holes that I need to fill.
It's been like on my watch list. I've almost watched it about 6 times, including like a couple weeks ago for another trivia match. But I had too much other stuff to watch, but haven't gotten around to it yet.
It's on HBO Max for anybody that wants to watch it.
All right, and Ethan, you're 61.
All right, my 61. I'm gonna guess I'm not gonna be talking about it tonight, but we'll see. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Oh, okay.
Yikes.
Wow.
I knew it. You had me for a second.
I mean, come on.
That's what I thought. All right, fair enough.
All right, Brian, you're 61.
My 61, the Blues Brothers. Right. So the Blues Brothers, 1980, I think, directed by John Landis. Yeah, I mean, this is a movie that it's labeled as a comedy, but this movie isn't really a comedy so much as it's a music movie. Because I mean, yes, there's funny parts to it, and yes, there's kind of a plot they have in it, but this movie is really just a celebration of music. The plot is just there to get from one musical performance to the next, and a lot of people, that's their criticism of it, is that they just play these. You sit through these whole musical songs, and they go to another location, they play another song or two, but I think those people are going in just expecting more of a comedy, more of a traditional movie. And that's not what this movie is. But I mean, even on Saturday Night Live, when the Blues Brothers appeared, it wasn't a sketch. It wasn't a comedy sketch. They were just the musical guests for that week. And so I think people were a little thrown by that and expecting comedy when it's not. It's just music. It's blues. And this movie does the same thing. It goes from place to place. There's cameos, and not only the Blues Brothers and their band performing, but it has, James Brown, Aretha Franklin, Cab Calloway, Ray Charles. It's just full of cameos and performances from all these musical legends. It's also got plenty of cameos of other random actors and directors. Steven Spielberg plays a county clerk. Frank Oz plays a corrections officer. So it's just kind of, it's kind of throwing everything at the wall and see what sticks. Just kind of, they invited friends and directors and things to be in this movie. But really, this movie, like I said, while there are funny parts to it, it's really about the music. And so if you enjoy the music, you'll enjoy this movie. If you're going looking for the comedy, it's funny. I mean, I like it a lot, but I know a lot of people don't. And that's fine, but that's, I think it's just because that's not what this movie is really trying to be.
Yeah, Blues Brothers, there are a lot of good moments in this movie. There's a lot of fun stuff in there. But I think exactly what you were saying, I think is to its detriment. I think there's just too much. I think it's too long. I think this is a really good, hour 45 comedy, stretched out to 2 hours, 15 minutes, something like that. It's just too long. I mean, you can take out that whole Nazi subplot. You can take out the whole, cut that whole chase scene at the end. It's just too long and ridiculous. They go to that honky tonk and they sing 2 songs. Like everything you wanted to do narratively is finished with the first song, but they just sing an entire second song. And just okay, like you said, move on to the next thing. I feel like this movie is like Dan Aykroyd not reined in. If you know anything about Dan Aykroyd, he's literally insane. And when he writes
read the original Ghostbusters script.
Yeah. Ghostbusters is Dan Aykroyd reined in, and you get really good. This movie is where
can you say his name one more time?
Aykroyd,
okay.
However you say it, I don't know. But
it's Kirky to you, Ethan. Come on.
It just it's there's just too much, and some of the music does not land. Like that Aretha Franklin scene is terrible.
I love that scene. What are you talking about?
Go back and watch it. That's one of the worst edited scenes in a movie ever. It is just chopped.
The Aretha Franklin scene.
It is just cut to death. If you read about it, they said they had to redo it. I don't know if she wasn't happy, they weren't happy, but they had to cut that. And it's just really bad filmmaking. That scene, it's just awful. So there's some stuff here that lands, a lot more that doesn't. It's I mean, it's not top 100 worthy. Like I said, it's a vibe movie, and I get that, but it's just too long, too overstuffed, and just like you said, they just put in everything they wanted. They didn't cut anything, and like I said, it's to the movie's detriment. Anybody else, Blues Brothers?
I hate Illinois Nazis. Hate them. I'm sorry. This movie is funny. This movie, it was close to making my list. It came out on and off. I love this movie. I love all the cameos. I love all the songs in it. I love Ray Charles shooting the gun. Those little moments are funny. I think Aretha Franklin's song in that scene is great. I just think they work so well together. And it's probably just because I was raised on the Blues Brothers movie, so like that's why it like still holds true. But no, it's a lot of fun. If Kirk start liking movies, you like Life of Brian, but you don't like Blue. Okay, whatever. Get out of here.
This is another movie that I've only seen like parts of, like chunks here and there. I've just never sat down and watched it from the beginning to end. I honestly haven't really enjoyed the bits I've seen from it. I think it's just like a movie that's probably not going to be for me. But I feel like I'll probably watch it at some point, but I don't know if I'm gonna love it.
I haven't seen it, and it's one I consider one of my biggest blind spots because I feel like it's such a me movie. It's something I would really like because I'm also a huge SNL fan. I base so much of my week around watching SNL. So I need to get it done.
All right, then Zach, you're going to finish things up for us with your 61.
Yeah, I'm really worried that this is going to be my most controversial movie on my list for the dumbest of reasons. Because, the modern era, what defines a movie has changed. But my number 61 is Lovers Rock, Steve McQueen's Lovers Rock, from Small Axe, which is promoted on Amazon as an anthology of films. Not a mini-series or a TV show, even though Emmys have fucked with it, and Mangrove should have been nominated for all the Oscars. But it was made as films. It was premiered at the New York Film Festival solely by itself, not as a collection. So it's a movie. I don't want to deal with the arguments that it doesn't even matter. Fuck you, Koho. Don't even ruin this. That's a fucking series that continues with the same goddamn characters, and these are separate stories. Okay. Move on. Lovers Rock is what I've seen it 3 times, even though it just came out, in the fall, and I did see it at the New York Film Festival. But it is one of those films that when you see, you're just reminded that the evolution of film is consistent. You can keep learning what the possibilities of making a movie is. There's no way half you would like this because there's 0 plot to this movie. It's almost like Steve McQueen's take on Dazed and Confused, but taking a community of people, but putting it purely at this party in the West Indies community of London in the 80s. It is 40 minutes of kind of people dancing at a party through different scenes. You do get to witness different kinds of people at this party. There is like some subplots running throughout it, but it's primarily just watching how this community can be a release from the pain and the stress of the outside world, but this is almost like a safe zone. And you see how people, there's multiple scenes that take different emotional reactions to music. Because my primary connection to this is the power of music, how you can connect to it as a cathartic experience, as a communal experience, as a release of anger at one point. And it has one of the greatest scenes of the past, 20 years or of all time with the Silly Games, which is, a song from the 70s or 80s, that they, elongate into a 10-minute scene because it turns into like a sing-along. They kind of shut down the music and they have the people just like kind of belt it out, and there's just such realness and pain to what's going on. There's also like, it starts with like pure sexist. I meant to button my shirt down and I forget my own bits because this is a sexy-ass movie too.
Are there penises?
So there's no penises, unfortunately, but how they can evolve the silly game scene from like starting with the real sexiness in between people dancing to kind of the opposite of it, to where there's like some sexual predation, so some sexual violence that may occur, that the fear goes, and then it goes to pure catharsis and heartbreak and pain, and then just kind of the joy of experiencing something together, all within the same song. And it's just a really magical. And I think Steve McQueen captures the physicality of dance and being together, better than anyone in this movie. It's really remarkable. If you haven't checked it out, you should watch all Small Axe, but especially at least give Lovers Rock a chance, and embrace it for what it is, because it's experimental in a way. It's not a story, but just take it in, breathe it in. It's just lovely, magnificent.
Okay, I haven't seen this yet, but I think you got an uphill battle here, Zach, because I'm looking this up on Prime, and it's literally listed as Season 1, Episode 2.
It was premiered in the banner as an anthology of movies.
I don't know if an episode of something can be considered a movie. We'll do a straw poll real quick in the chat. Sound off. What is more of a movie, Hamilton or Small Axe Episode 2?
Oh, definitely not Hamilton. That's nothing.
Let us hear. I want to get the
New York
chat.
Film Festival. Hamilton's not.
But yeah, I mean, it sounds interesting, and like I said, I haven't watched these yet. I know it was really, it was really hyped up when it first came out. The whole series, not just this episode. But again, I don't know what counts. I'll get everybody else's opinion on that.
Yeah, Kirk, I have a couple of adjustments to make to my list. A couple episodes of Black Mirror and Creepshow I'd like to add.
That's cool. With this shit. What's wrong with this bullshit? Respect Steve McQueen, one of our greatest filmmakers, motherfuckers.
Cool. I know we're running late, but if you would have come in, it might be interesting if you have something to say on this.
Small Axe is a fucking TV show. You fucking Wisconsin bitch.
It literally says movie in the banner.
And Hamilton, it says movie in the trailer. What are we doing?
I didn't say Hamilton.
Neither of them.
I've never been in an argument. I've never been on the Hamilton movie thing, so you don't need to fight against me. It's not me. I would put fucking Stop Making Sense. That's a concert play. It's a great movie. I'm not against you, Koho. Be on my side.
Okay. Does anybody have any opinions on the actual show?
I haven't seen this television show yet.
I hear you.
Very muted, Cody. If you're talking.
Cody, you're muted.
I said I'm really sick of my computer listening to everybody because I go to Prime and the three movies that it suggests is I Love You Man, Small Axe, and Forgetting Sarah Marshall, all three back to back. Like, okay, this thing's just listening to everything that we're talking about. Cool. No, I have not seen this, but this TV, I watched the first one, I believe, of the first episode, and that first episode was really good. I was waiting to see the second episode. Yeah, I saw the pilot. I have not been able to see the next one.
The only thing I know about Small Axe is a true story. My dad called me up and he asked if I knew anything about it because he wasn't half an hour into it and he had heard it was a Steve McQueen movie, but Steve McQueen hadn't shown up yet. I'm like, well, the fact that he's been dead for several decades should have clued you in. But but other than that, yeah, I have not seen any of these, so I don't know.
Can I switch some stuff in my top 100 because I have some episodes from TV shows that are about an hour long that would really be better for this show.
We'll talk after off the air.
This can't. You all just seem like idiots because this can't be one. It's literally called a movie. Fucking dumbasses. It said it on its own website.
I just love
it's listed as a TV show literally everywhere, Zach.
It was at the film festival. It's at the TV festival. That might be a separate thing. I don't know. This is why it's dumb. I didn't want. I almost didn't put this on the list because I didn't want to deal with this bullshit. Just take it for what it is, whether you think it's a TV show or not. Just fucking watch the thing and tell me what you want.
Ending on a TV show is like ending the Oscars with Best Actor who's not there. I mean, come on.
Honestly, this might be the best of ways to end this.
Wow. Okay, this is a fun way to end the episode. These debates are always fun and they never end, which is great. But oh shoot, now I got to pick a winner. This is gonna be tough because fun fact: each of you had 2 movies from my top 100 on your list tonight. Believe it or not.
Was it Bad Boys?
This is
what?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you got to remember who had crap on top of those other ones. So just remember that.
I'm just saying it's
remember how Cody feels about Ladybird.
It could change.
That's we'll save that for the overall. That's gonna affect the overall winner. But yeah, tonight's winner, I got to give it to Cody just because, I mean, he had Inglourious Bastards. That's in my top 5. Hell or High Water is real high for me. And he had Double Indemnity, Moneyball, Apocalypse Now, Uncut Gems. He had a lot of winners on his list, so I couldn't pass him up. Again, 2 and 3 is tough. I was going to give it to Zach because he got Kill Bill Volume 1 right, but then he picked a TV show for his other movie, so those two things kind of cancel each other out.
He hates it here. He wants to go home.
Oh, shoot. See,
Unfortunately, I am home, and that makes it sadder.
Yeah, I think Zach is still going to take second place. He got Lady Bird, Harlan County, Kill Bill Volume 1. A lot of good movies on his list. Ethan's number 3. It was close. I love The Blob. Last Crusade, obviously a big winner for me. District 9. And Brian, I mean, there were movies on here that made it your one of your best chances. I mean, you had Shaun of the Dead, you had Christmas Story. Those are 2 real high-rated movies for me. But I mean, you weren't getting over Bad Boys and South Park and just some other stuff on here. I'm not a huge Blues Brothers. I'm not a huge fan of. So yeah, that's the way it breaks down for the night. Yeah, longest episode so far, and I mean, it's probably going to stay that way. So hopefully you guys are okay. Thank you for everybody who hung out in the chat. A lot of fun tonight, and yeah, Koho, show us a clip from that great movie, Napoleon Dynamite.
Going to intimidate me. I'm entitled to my opinion.
Drunk and angry. Come on, break the lousy cup. Ow! I hurt my arm.
Bob, and I'd expect everybody to do everything.
I'm going there soon, you know.
Is that so? Where are you going?
Uruguay.
Well, you go Uruguay and I'll go mine.